Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Former TV anchor Jackie Maribe and Joseph Irungu and as Joey will today know their fate in the Monica Kimani murder case. Judge Grace Nzioka had earlier stated that she would give the judgment on the 15th of March. Court officials stated that all the parties agreed for the judgment to be delivered at 9 a.m. today. Maribe and Irungu, who are the main suspects in the case, will thus know their fate, whether they were found guilty or not. The ruling was initially set to be delivered last month but was postponed after Maribe failed to appear in court citing illness. Kimani's murder case has dragged in court since 2018, with Maribe and Joey lined up as the main suspect. Shall be following up this for you. We will be bringing it for you as from 9 a.m. Now, Nakuru Environment and Land Court presiding Judge Anthony Ombaso has recused himself from the War Memorial Hospital ownership case. Ombaso said the case has now been transferred to Nairobi for further directions. The judge has further given Nakuru County Police Commander Samuel Ndanyi 2 more days to comply with court orders after dismissing his excuse that police had been overpowered by goons. This even comes as the land dispute tussle for the hospital continues that has resulted in the interruption of health services. And fresh details have emerged about how a man awaiting extradition on a Massachusetts warrant alleging he killed his girlfriend and left her body in a car at the Boston airport escaped from the police custody. Nairobi Police Chief Adamson Bungei says Kevin Kang'ethe slipped out of a police station cell and jumped into a matatu escaping towards Thika. Bungei, however, says that they now have details of the matatu and efforts to trace the crew and owner are ongoing. Now, Kenya has secured a 3 billion shillings deal with Japan to support a health sector project. The 3 billion shillings will aid in the construction of a high-level facility for training scientists in research and the development of biotechnology products. Kemri's CEO Elijah Songok supported the act, saying that the investment cemented the institute's position in enhancing research and development for improved health and well-being.
Today, Kenya and Japan signed a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in the ICT sector and on the enhancement of capacity of the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, to build on its pandemic management potential. Additionally, we witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding to issue a samurai bond and also a letter of intent with respect to defense cooperation to strengthen our partnership in the field of defense and enable us to work together in promoting peace and stability in Africa and in all maritime trade routes.
Now, President William Ruto has appointed former Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich as an advisor on economic matters. Rotich, who was unceremoniously laid off as Treasury CS by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, will now serve as a senior advisor on fiscal affairs and budget policy at Ruto's office. In his new role, Rotich will offer advice on the management of the economy and public finances. This even comes as Rotich and 8 others were cleared in the 63 billion shillings Aurora and Kimwarer graft case in December last year. And the cost of electricity is set to go down by 3 shillings and 44 cents across all consumers. The Ministry of Energy attributes the reduction to a significant drop in the foreign exchange adjustment rate. EPRA had last year, November, hiked token prices to enable the power company recover losses of up to 6.5 billion shillings. And a couple is admitted in hospital at the Isiolo County Referral Hospital after they were attacked by a lion while looking for firewood. Michael Apai, one of the victims, said that the animal left bruises on his arms, legs, back and ribs. He has called on the government to assist them in paying their medical bills as well as enhancing security in the region.
Nyuma mkono, mguu na hizi mikono zingine na piga kucha na mbafu na upande wa mgongo. Kwanza ilikuja ikawa imefukuza mwanamke juu ndio alikuwa nyuma. Mwanamke akanipita mbele yangu. Sasa mimi ikanirukia ndio ikaniangusha chini, ikaanza kunikanyangia chini kwanza. Sasa ile ikanikanyangia chini ikaanza kuniweka majirani nini. Nikamwambia kuja nipatilishie panga. Nikampiga panga ndio akarukia mwanamke bibi yangu sasa. Kamuma mguu yote mbili na alikuwa amekatalia kwa mguu kabisa.
This comes a day after 2 people were attacked by hyena in Rungai. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. And hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe za baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, hawa watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
It's Friday, and it doesn't look like it's going to be too difficult of a morning. If we're coming off a thicker superhighway, not much happening here. Just at the Pangani underpass, it's starting to look like it could be something later. Most of your other streets are free-flowing. In and out of the CBD should not be a problem today. Outer Ring looks good. As you're coming into your junctions from Manyanja Road and Kangundo Road, you'll see some traffic as you get to those exits. We're also seeing a little bit of that starting to pile up on Uhuru Highway as you get towards the city centre. We're going to keep an eye on things this Friday morning. Let's see what's going on where you are. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Today is the 8th of February, 2023. I've taken us a year back. No, actually, it's 2024. Need to remember actually where we are. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to This Morning, where we get into... Is it the second? It's the first Friday of the second weekend of the month. How are you? Getting into Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, and a couple of conversations that we will be having today as we get into it. Okay, so what do we have in store today in terms of conversations, even as the day begins at 8 o'clock? Let's start from actually 7. 7 o'clock, it is Healthy Friday, and so we'll be looking at some conversations, improving cervical cancer screening and treatment in Kenya. We're just coming off the back of Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and we'll be joined by Dr. Natabona Mabachi. She's an assistant research professor in the University of Kansas, and we'll be having that conversation with her at 7. At 8 o'clock, Cyprian Nyamwamu will be with us here. We'll be talking about the cost of being poor in Kenya. It's usually an issue, and you're asking yourself, what does it cost to actually live from day to day? And wondering, okay, so how do we get through it? What do we actually do? All right, so those are conversations that we will be having today. We'll be looking at some of those as we get through the morning.
You're the short man.
Good morning, Eric.
How's that?
I don't know what he's doing, but
picha imeingia. Pa, kacha, kacha. Kacha, kacha. Siti kuja. Come. It's the Valentine photo. Get into the Instagram.
Smiling or something.
Yeah. That's it, eh?
Something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
Okay.
Month of love.
Okay. Okay. Karibu. Good morning. CT, how are you?
Thank you.
So you say this in this direction.
He's admiring the flower.
Good morning.
Ah, okay.
He's admiring the flower. The flower.
And how are you, Eric?
Mimi niko poa.
Very good.
Yes.
City, I like your shirt.
Thank you.
You did an ink thing.
I did an ink thing.
Just now? Just now?
Yes.
Oh, drat.
Ole.
You know what you need to do? Don't smudge it. Get home and put some bicarbonate of soda and vinegar.
It'll disappear.
And it'll go right out.
That's why I'm this relaxed. Because I know.
It's a lovely shirt.
By soda of carbonate.
Kama hiyo hakuna, wacha tu.
You need chapamandashi.
That's
right?
One. Yes, chapamandashi. That is a bicarbonate soda that is called chapamandashi.
Baking powder.
No, that's baking powder. Baking soda is different.
Baking soda. You're baking ndio muhimu.
The bicarbonate of soda and baking powder are two totally different things.
No. Nani. You're baking ndio kitu muhimu. Baking bicarbonate of soda.
No.
And then
No. Baking powder has a rising element in it. You use it for baking. Baking soda has an acidic element, and so it levels off the
rising.
It levels off your sweet.
The soda, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two totally different things.
Yes.
So you don't put that in mandazi?
What?
Bicarbonate of mandazi.
No.
Huh?
You don't put soda in mandazi.
You put soda in what?
You put baking soda
bicarbonate
in one of your...
is magadi. Is what we call magadi.
Magadi soda. In your bicarbonate.
It's bicarbonate.
So
magadi soda.
What is it's meant for cooking? What exactly?
What?
Bicarbonate.
Soda? Well, you can use it for many things. It has an astringent element. It has a cleaning element. But at the same time, it balances your flavors, especially in baking. Balances, yes. Okay. Your sweets, so it doesn't become sickly sweet, essentially.
Magadi.
Soda. Baking soda.
Okay.
Bicarbonate soda.
Yeah.
So the keyword is soda.
Okay.
So you put bicarbonate of soda and vinegar.
Vinegar to take out that stain.
Yes.
What makes vinegar?
I don't know. With some sodium.
Vinegar.
Yeah.
So we'll find out.
Yeah.
And then we will know.
Yeah.
The morning is still young.
It is.
With all these guests who are coming to the show. So just ask one of them where look like someone.
Yeah, you look like someone who knows vinegar. Vinegar. Where does vinegar come from?
Yes.
Is it bottled at sauce?
Why do we need to stress our minds when these things can be responded for us?
And then there's the other one that goes with vinegar. What's that one? What's that as a vinegar?
There are different kinds of vinegars.
Yeah,
there's apple cider vinegar, there's balsamic vinegar, there's white wine vinegar.
So what does that mean?
And the one which you drink.
Is that the sauce?
It's just different flavors.
Is that the sauce of the vinegar? Or is it the flavor of it?
It's the flavor.
What's been added onto the vinegar?
It's been added. So balsamic has been added.
What's balsamic?
Balsamic is a thick salt-ish ingredient that heightens the taste of the vinegar. So it's just a taste that you add to it.
Vinegar requires the taste to be heightened. I thought the taste was already heightened.
Wow.
Maybe it's just to dull the taste of the vinegar.
Vinegar, brother, you kid too. It's
got a different flavor.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Okay. Hiya, you've said what you're doing. Okay. It's obtained by fermenting dilute alcoholic liquids, typically wine, cider, or beer. So the balsamic, the wine, and then is the sauce. It's what made it. So if it's wine vinegar, if it's cider vinegar, that's what has been fermented. Okay. Hiya, we do the weather. How are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. Sawa. 17 minutes after 6. Good morning, everybody. If you know what you need to do, because you're online, we're live streaming the show. We're live streaming Ednah, right? Yeah, and it's doing like that, like it should. Let's see if today the situation will have improved in terms of our streaming quality. But if you're online, let us know where you're tuned in from. We'll do like that as soon as we do like that. Do?
Yeah.
You do like that.
Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with Spice.
Highs of 27 and lows of 16. It's 13 and partly cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 26. In a partly cloudy Nyeri at 14. Eldoret is clear at 14 with highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 33 in Mombasa, where it's partly cloudy at 26. Malindi this morning is cloudy at 27 with highs of 32, and Kisumu is clear at 20 with highs of 30. We'll see highs of 31 in a partly cloudy Kakamega, currently at 19. Looking out into a mostly cloudy Kampala at 19, we'll see highs of 30, while in Dar es Salaam we'll see highs of 32. It's partly cloudy at 27. 18 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 27, while into Mogadishu it's partly sunny already at 24. We'll see highs of 33. Addis Ababa is 13 and cloudy. See highs of 24 and lows of 11. It's a hazy morning in Lagos at 25 with highs of 34. And looking into Kinshasa, it's mostly cloudy at 24 with highs of 32. Beijing Friday afternoon is sunny at 4 with highs of 9. We'll see lows of -3. While in Paris at 11 degrees, it's cloudy. We'll see highs of 14. London, heavy rain this morning at 11. We'll see highs of 13 and lows of 7. While New York is cloudy at 5 degrees Thursday night, coming into Friday. We'll see highs of 10 and lows of 3.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Richard Makiadi says, good morning, watching from Marekani. Where is that?
Where?
Marekani.
America.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Don Zabwa says, is the president a state officer? Okay. Well, I guess that's a question. Interesting one.
President of which country?
He is.
Kenya.
He is.
He's a state officer.
The question.
At the highest level, but he's a state officer either way.
He is a state officer, as his cabinet is, as those others are.
Yeah?
He's a state officer and a public officer. All state officers are public officers. Not all public officers are state officers.
It's like all rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles. Did you know that? Eric, CT and Ndu, not forgetting Ednah. It's Friday. Yes, it is. Chris Adede says, good morning, SpiceFM. Tuned in from Utawala, ready to listen to The Situation Room, the best breakfast show in Kenya. Asante sana. Ricardo Mariera says, good morning, kings and queens. Hii ni system ya majambazi. Okay. Denim Wanza says, good morning, tuned in, good people. Jeffrey Mogaka says, the weekend is here with us. Good morning, CT Ndu, Eric and Ednah. Have a fantastic day. Ednah, makofi kwako.
Makofi?
Yes.
Amefanya nini?
Imeenda kwa Ednah.
Whatever the cause is, makofi ndio. Okay.
Jacinta Wamboy says, good morning, good people. Have a great weekend. San Francisco, Eco Lock. Salamu za asubuhi from Detroit, says Leban Cialo. Robert Tobago is tuning from Mombasa. Desmond says, good morning, Spice. It's a sad and sorrowful morning to me. I lost my mum. Oh, my.
Oh, no.
After battling with heart failure. I'm so sorry about this, Desmond.
Oh, poor Letana.
Deepest condolences to you, for sure.
Poleni sana.
Precious Gondi says, good morning. New day, new blessings, new hope. Margaret Wanjohi is tuned in this morning and says, good morning, Eric, Ndusiti, and Ednah. It's Ednah. Tuned in from Houston, Texas. Thanks for keeping us educated. Good morning, CT, Ndu, Eric. Now Kenya water. Where is Miguna? Probably in his house. Who knows? At this hour. Elvis Kibet is tuned in and said, ready for Kenya's biggest conversation. Wiki Aaron says, good morning. Another Friday like we've never seen before. Margaret Wanjohi is tuned in this morning. Tito says, greetings from Dubai. It's Friday. Mashari Anjeru says, good morning. Tuned in from Portland, Oregon. And Richard, we see you. Dev as well says, tuned in from Yala. Peter Kiburu says, good morning, guys. Abdullahi Ogelo, yes. Today's the 9th. I got it. John Mwangi says, I like Ndu. Well, that's great. Ongani, I don't know how to pronounce this name. O-N-G apostrophe A-N-Y. How do you say that? Ongani?
Yes.
Ongani Malala says, good morning. Tuned in, enjoyed yesterday's conversation. Invite Dr. Magara again. Yeah, that was a good conversation. It was. Yes, Abdullahi says bicarbonate of soda and baking powder, two different things. Actually, baking soda and bicarbonate are the same thing. Bicarbonate and baking powder are two totally different things, okay? Arthur Wanjama says, wow, CT is actually taller than Eric. Kwani Eric was the SI unit of height.
CT is tall, bwana.
CT is tall, bwana. Okay, yes. Sin Ann says, good morning. Agola says she uses baking soda for her vegetables. Ndu, you're doing a good job, but don't interrupt people so much. Which people? We've just started the conversation, Deep State. Take a breath. Francis Kivindu says, good morning. Ale Bulan says, good morning. Edwin Gary also says, good morning. So does Felix. Good morning, everybody. Karibu.
Welcome, City.
Yes.
Fanya namna hiyo.
Final proverb.
It's Friday.
Yes, it is Friday.
It
is Friday.
All right.
Right. Where the rooster crows, there is a village.
Nice one. Where the rooster crows, there's a village.
She is there.
Very good. Headlines, Ndu?
All right, on the front page of the Standard this morning, Ruto's 320 billion shilling gamble. Allah. In an acid test for the Ruto administration's ability to repay the massive debt, the government offers investors holding $2 billion debt a window to exchange it for a fresh bond denominated in US dollars as it seeks to avoid a potential full-blown crisis in June. This is a big deal. Former CS Rotich makes a grand return. Look at the details of that. The suspect in US lovers killing in a dramatic cell escape. We saw that happen. Was it a planned escape from police cells? Detectives are racking their brains after Kevin Kangeve, a man accused of murdering his girlfriend in the United States of America and who is facing extradition proceedings, escaped from police custody. Judge quits after orders are disobeyed. Really? Justice Anthony Ombaso notes that 6 orders issued by the Nakuru court had been disobeyed by the local police commander Samuel Danyi. We'll look at that. Kenya bags 350 billion shillings deals in Japan. Opens a portal for nearly 900,000 students. Yeah, portal opened yesterday. So what this is essentially is that now you can select your course of choice. On the front page, on the front page of The Nation, why governors are in big trouble. Bala. Sitting and former governors are furious over a proposed law designed to block county bosses from contesting parliamentary positions at least 5 years immediately after leaving office. So you can't just finish the governorship and say, I want to be senator. They're saying, if enacted, second-term governors who leave office in 2027 and plan to contest MP seats would be the first casualties. So they're saying, it can never be us. How Fugitive strolled out of police station. We'll look at the details of that. Also looking at more of this, Kenya's possible 350 billion deals with Japan. It's D-Day for Maribe and Joey in murder trial, which was supposed to have been on the 15th of March. Judgment will be today. Yeah, so we're looking also on the back page. Banks now begin sharing customer data with KRA. Wow. Ex-CS Rotich lands new job as advisor to president after being cleared in graft case.
Okay. The Business Daily, these are the headlines. Kenya signs contract for SGR extension to Uganda. How many contracts have we signed on this matter?
Should we just keep signing?
Kenya has signed a commercial contract for the construction of the next stretch of the SGR from Naivasha to Malaba. The Treasury has revealed ahead of next week's return to we are playing the market. The disclosures contained in the Treasury prospectus to international investors sets the stage for the extension of the line to the Ugandan border in the third leg of the project. The commercial contract in relation to phase 2 has been signed and is awaiting funding. So tunaenda kuchukua Eurobond ya kufund. That's all they're trying to say. Banks start sharing customer data and balances with KRA. That's the story also in the back page of The Nation, right? It's a headline in the Business Daily. Banks have started sharing information about foreign account holders with KRA as the taxman steps up its purge of tax dodgers and beneficiaries of illicit wealth. So you have a $1 account like this, KRA can also see it. Ticker headlines. Gachagua CSs hire 250 personal staff. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and the 22 cabinet secretaries hired 250 personnel or personal staff in the financial year ended June 2023, adding to the many jobs that have been dished out by public officers on a non-competitive basis. Now everybody's there working for, I work for the CS. I'm a PA. I'm in protocol.
So those protocol.
I'm in protocol. I'm in state functions. I'm in what? Kenya returns to global market for another Eurobond. Yeah. Now we are looking for a Eurobond so we can finance the Eurobond. Sawa. 7 Seas to pay 900 million shillings taxes to KRA. Where? 7 Seas Technologies, headed by businessman Michael Macharia, will pay KRA 900.4 million shillings after losing a case against the agency at the Tax Appeals Tribunal. City?
Right. Top right-hand corner in burnt brown. Okay?
It's Friday.
Yes, it's Friday.
CSR.
Bang, yani ile bold. Okoh murder probe. How fraudsters fooled the Gor Sungu Select Committee. Yes, then there's like a small in the Siasa pages also. There's ODM overhaul. Raila keeps everyone guessing on 2027 polls. I don't know why they're bothering to guess. You should just wait and see.
Chill, man.
Yes, you will know in the fullness of time. Then Rotich lands job, this one has already been said, as advisor after his acquittal in Dam's case. I am not going to speak on that matter. Toxic brew. Go for checkup, revelers who patronize Kirinyaga bar urged. Remember this one?
Yeah.
How many people died so far? 13 or how many?
Yes.
Yeah, 13.
They head in that direction.
Jeez.
So it was 1 day consumption, right? It was at 1 day they all drank.
Yeah.
That is why the citizens got upset and went and trashed the place completely. All right. Then, audit investigation. Now, this one is an interesting story. Investigation may return to haunt Uhuru Kenyatta's bureaucrats in sports ministry. 2.7 billion expenditure rocks sports ministry. Suspicious spending includes millions used during Safari Rally championship in Naivasha.
That's interesting. Didn't I see Ababu Namwamba at the Grammys
Yes, he was there.
in a penguin suit?
He's also in AFCON.
He's everywhere, man.
Yeah, sports ministry, sports. AFCON, sports.
And talent.
And talent. Ile
Sport.
Grammys need
Sport.
So
Talanta hela.
Garrett.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Highlights of the audit report, I just need to mention, covers everything, okay? Unsupported 294 million payments to builders at Nyayo Stadium. Yani, the stadium already exists.
I need you to repeat that. I actually didn't hear you.
294 million shillings payment to builders at Nyayo Stadium. You know, Nyayo Stadium already exists, okay?
Yes.
But these guys were going to build it, so it's okay. But, so, just guess. Okay?
What are they doing? They were doing maybe renovations? Must have been.
The story was renovations. I'm just being facetious. And
but what were they to renovate? I think there was a renovation of the swimming.
That thing.
Basketball indoors.
Yes,
courts.
all those. Basketball, swimming, all that are supposed to be renovated. As we speak, Yani currently today.
We have done the reno. We are waiting for the version.
Yes, we've talked about it.
Mkiongeza pesa tutamalizia.
Kidogo tu.
You did not say that.
Yes, she did, yes. Version itakuja. Okay, so chukweni ile ambayo iko. Na mchukue na roho safi, okay? Then there's the Kamarine Stadium.
Historic.
Yes. 40. This one not too much. Just 48,500,000 were made without supporting documents. But if it was made, what didn't supporting documents for? Supporting documents are supposed to come before you make it. It's already been made.
Then what's the problem?
You no longer need supporting documents. All right. Then 52 million overpayment in Kipchoge Keino phase 1 and 2, meaning stadium already exists, but 52 million is paid again. Sindio? Yes. All right. Then IAAF under 20 steering and organizing committee and budgeted for expenditure after expiry of term. Term is expired. Then you go and spend a whooping, otherwise known as a whooping, 747 million shillings, 400,000. Yes, 750 million.
For what?
WEIAF under 20. That one.
You must take the bend.
When you're running, there's a bend.
There's a bend. You must take it. In fact, they say when you lean, you go faster.
You lean on this side.
This was the thing that was at Kasarani.
Yes, that one. It was actually a beautiful thing. Then you also take this one. All right. We're not finished. Then, just in case you thought it was safe to get out of the water, 131 million for helicopter hire during WRC with no supporting documents.
What do they mean no supporting documents though? What do they want?
Usually
a photo of the helicopter. What do they want?
No. This helicopter story has not ended. But let me just explain this one.
Okay.
Meaning, it's Gava.
Yes.
It means they have
procurement.
Yes. The processes must be documented. Name of this helicopter.
PO.
The place
PO
we're hiring.
issued.
Yes, that one. You're hiring from helicopter one, like that. But if you thought that was interesting about the helicopter, then WRC, there's also a pending bill amounting to 550 million.
Pending bill.
Yes, meaning we
but we have not paid.
Yes, WRC. And then when you read the story, you find those helicopters. First of all, nobody saw them.
What do you mean? We saw helicopters.
The helicopters were for the people who were rallying. You know, the guys who have the motorcars. They come with their own helicopters.
The what?
The motorcars.
The guys with the vroom. Those guys.
Mtoka.
Vroom. Those ones. They come with their own helicopter. These ones were ours, but we didn't. Okay. But also for WRC, this one is Naivasha. There was a variation, just variation in the presidential pavilion. Okay, the variation we were told was first of all 25%, but eventually we got to 45% variation for the
president pavilion.
Yes, so that when the president is sitting in the
so
pavilion,
the variation is 45% of what the size,
the cost.
Oh,
yes. You know why pavilion is important? So that when
the president comes,
and he sits there, and from there he can see the helicopters, he can see the cars, he can also see the people.
He can pavilion.
Okay. Anyway, but bang in the middle of the story, court to finally deliver story paper. Court to finally deliver ruling on Joey Maribe murder case. This is a sad story. Former TV anchor Jackie Maribe murder victim Monica Kimani and Joseph Irungu Joey. It's a picture. Right.
Hi.
Sad.
Tell us about traffic, and then we look at the stories in detail.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right. Friday, usually we don't have too much going on, but taking a look at what's coming off of Jogo Road, right around Makadara, there's a bit of a hold up there, and it's going to take you all the way through towards the City Stadium roundabout. Also looking at traffic coming off of Thika Superhighway, that's flowing without an issue. Then at the Pangani Tunnel, everything slows down, of course, because it is a tunnel. Also coming off of Kangunda Road, there's quite some traffic this morning. Slows down at different spots as you're trying to get then towards Outer Ring. Outer Ring itself is not looking too bad. You're going to get off that North Airport Road area, getting onto Outer Ring, then a bit of a hold up there as well as Matatus try to do their thing. Langata Road looks good. It looks good on Gong Road as well. I don't think we're going to see an issue for now. We'll probably see later traffic as we get into traffic hour. So Friday looks good. Let's keep an eye on things as we go through it. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
He just walked out barefoot. How a most wanted fugitive escaped from custody. So senior police officers were last evening under pressure to explain the circumstances under which a fugitive on international watch escaped from custody on Wednesday evening. You wonder. Kevin Adam Kenyanjui Kangeve, the 40-year-old man accused of killing his girlfriend in the United States of America, then fleeing to Kenya to evade justice, had been on the run for 3 months when he was arrested by Kenyan detectives at a nightclub in January, on the 30th actually. His arrest drew the attention of the US, whose officials in a brief statement thanked Kenyan authorities for finally apprehending the man accused of killing his girlfriend in Massachusetts, and then stashing her body in a car, driving it to an airport parking lot, and then catching a flight to Nairobi, just running around my errands. But on Wednesday evening, barely a week after his heavily publicized arrest, Kangeve is reported to have calmly walked out of Muthaiga police station and disappeared into thin air. A police report indicated that he was visited by a man claiming to be his lawyer at around 5 p.m. on Wednesday evening. Police officers at the station opened the door to his small cell and escorted him barefoot to a small office within the main administration block that also services an interrogation room. Okay. A few minutes later, police reported the fugitive's escape from the station and promptly arrested his lawyers, whom they found still in the interrogation room.
Okay, repeat that paragraph.
Now,
that sentence.
A few minutes later, do what?
Cops have come. Someone has come, says,
someone comes to the police station, says, I'm lawyer. There's lawyer. I would like to see him.
Okay.
You can. They go to his cell. He's barefoot. They bring him to the interrogation room.
And they
leave him in the presence of the men who said they're his lawyers.
Okay.
And they left. A few minutes later, they cannot find said prisoner. They go to the interrogation room. The lawyers are still sitting there.
What do you mean they cannot find?
Yeah, exactly.
So what made them come back to the interrogation room?
Hold.
So they come back to the interrogation room and they arrest the lawyer.
Yes.
Okay.
They arrest the lawyers who they found still seated in the interrogation room. Now, it is not clear what transpired inside the station between the lawyer's visit and the moment police officers ran out of the station in hot pursuit of the suspect. You know, hot, running. Where? She call you. Smoke and dust and everything flying. Detectives then were also last night examining the circumstances of the escape. And we understand that the senior Nairobi police commanders have raised questions regarding why such a high-profile or high-risk fugitive appears to have been treated casually by police sentries at the station. I mean, you're just treating him like he's anybody.
Casually how? How did they want
As opposed to have him under chain and law. I don't know.
We don't do that.
We don't do those things.
We see that in the movies.
So he's not been taken outside the police station.
No.
He's been removed from his cell.
His cell, small
to
cell.
An interrogation
room, which is not far from
the lawyers.
Which means he's not the first person to be taken there. And that place exists for that very purpose.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay? So the question is, what happened between when the police, escorted him from this cell to the room. They left him in the presence of his lawyers and went to do other things, because they're busy. Now, Nairobi Regional Police Commander Adamson Bungay is reported to have referred to the incident as embarrassing to the police service as he ordered the arrest of all the 4 police officers who were on sentry duty when Kangede staged his daring escape. He says, "We have nabbed 4 police officers who were on duty when the suspect escaped. I would advise him to surrender to the police because very soon we shall arrest him." I'm just advising you, wherever you are, you can hear me.
Come and get arrested.
Before we come and arrest you, come and get arrested. Okay? From across the fence yesterday, nothing could betray the chaos inside the quaint police station just off Thika Road, just a few meters from the junction to Kiambu. A fresh coat of white paint radiated. Okay, now we're just going into some semantics here. But the problem that they're saying is that there's so much happening that it is very easy for anybody to just walk out without being questioned. Essentially, that is what they're saying. How Kangede, barefoot and apparently not handcuffed, just walked through the doors of this heavily guarded zone, down through the front yard, through the main gate, and into the human and vehicular maze of the Thika Superhighway is the stuff of legend. And detectives are interrogating those in custody to establish whether or not he was aided. I'm not making it up. I'm reading.
I am laughing because at least now we have the police service introducing comedy into it. This is good, but
so
sense of humor.
All of you guys in the cell will come and ask you, by the way, do you know if this guy, somebody helped him to leave?
And tell us.
Tell us, what did you see? Did he tell you anything yesterday?
Mimi vile alikuwa anakaa ni kama
alikuwa anataka kuhepa.
Kuna kitu alikuwa anajua.
In fact, alikuwa ameniambia kwamba hiyo viatu alikuwa amewacha akienda nipewe.
Na saa yake.
Yes.
This is comical. But we see this. Remember the other story of the guy who took off from a murder suspect
in Kakamega,
who took off from a police station in Buruburu, and then he was committing suicide in Kakamega. Was he committing suicide? He was being lynched by
a mob. So then they now saved him.
Yeah, and they saved him, and then he died. He died
while he was being saved.
Because of being saved. See, a guy just escaped like that. It's the same thing now we're hearing here. A guy, Kisumu prison, some prisoners took off last week.
They did.
This one he was meeting with the lawyer.
Wait, can I tell you more?
Lawyer anasema nini? Alisema anaenda kukojoa.
Akaenda.
Akaenda bado anakojoa.
Tunamngojea. In fact tunashindwa kwani mmemrudisha sela.
Wait, please, can I add some more? Now, it would take a man with a great sense of daring to do or to make a dash from the main gate to whichever direction. And the accounts of 3 witnesses appeared to contradict those of the police in terms of what transpired. Now, while the police said Kangeve ran out of the station and boarded a matatu, yani they were seeing him running out, boarding a matatu. Okay?
The stories are conflicting.
Exactly.
They were looking for him.
Now suddenly they've seen him boarding a matatu, and they saw him running out. Remember, 3 witnesses suggested that he could have been picked by a car that trailed him as he ran in the easterly direction of the station towards the National Youth Service barracks, just a few meters away. One witness said, "I saw a man running barefoot yesterday." Okay. He wasn't running that fast, and the 2 men were trailing him. There was also a car behind them, and they disappeared into the traffic. We didn't take it seriously because nobody raised an alarm. Remember, the police said that they were doing what?
This is Thika Road.
Yeah.
Are we saying
Muthaiga, you know
Muthaiga, you know Muthaiga?
I know that place very well.
There's a service lane.
Yes.
And then there's the highway.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then there's Kiambu Road.
Yes. And then there's Thika Road.
And then there's Thika Road.
Another witness who runs a small kiosk in the vicinity.
So they were saying he was running towards the NYS.
Yes.
You see, NYS, hey, my friend.
No.
NYS is towards Safari. It's called that.
The
Utali.
Utali, yeah, the
Yes.
drift.
So
Yeah.
the drift like that as it was. Aye.
Then another witness who runs a small kiosk in the vicinity said he saw a man just run past with 2 men in hot pursuit. One of the men was in police uniform while the other was in civilian attire, and they
shouting,
both
"Shika,
turned back
shika."
after a short while. They should have told us to apprehend the guy. We would have helped him.
Shika,
yeah. But in fact, they were just like joking with him.
Who's reporting this?
Another witness.
These witnesses were all there. These are also witnesses. Alikuja hivi. Sasa huyu polisi wakakuja naye hivi. Alafu kulikuwa na gari inawafuata hivi. Alafu kulikuwa na... Those are many stories, boss. There were vehicles, there was a policeman, there was a white car, there was who, every witness is witnessing their own thing.
Border guys now who normally just
Ameingia NYS.
Border guys said they saw nothing. Border guys said, wapi?
Tujaona kitu.
And you know, there are border guys just outside the police station.
No, the ones who had seen had left. By the time these guys were asking.
Yes. Now, another witness said, remember the first guy said he turned right toward NYS. Now, this witness said he turned left after entering the gate, ran past the busy stop right outside the station, and disappeared into the afternoon traffic on the busy. No one saw him climb the stairs.
Left, right of what?
Of the police station.
If you know that road, and you know it well, whether you're going to Kiambu, whether you're going towards Thika, you tell me, this large crowd of people whom you see, there are people on the road, yes. There are people.
There's usually like a bus stop there because on that service lane, matatus stop there.
Yes. But the pedestrians are separated from the vehicles that are on that road.
Yeah, on the highway.
Yes, it's a highway. Aisuru, he escaped.
He escaped now. Bunge is saying, Pana, you guys are embarrassing us. You're embarrassing us. How is it possible that this guy could just leave? At the end of the day, he's not here. Somebody knows what's going on. This one, we're not just taking it like that. Telling you it's a drama of the highest order.
This one?
For all we know, he could be still in the cell.
Or he may turn up in the States.
Yes.
Before a court.
Yes.
This story at you, extradition, kidogo he appears there like, we arrested him midair.
Yes.
He was not on Kenyan soil. and decided to bring him to face justice. Meanwhile, in Nakuru, a High Court judge has expressed deep frustration at the National Police Service for failing to implement orders on reopening and access to the Nakuru War Memorial Hospital. In a hearing yesterday, Justice Anthony Ombaso of the Environment and Lands Court noted that 6 orders issued by the court have been disobeyed by the local police commander Samuel Ndanyi. In a virtual hearing attended by the police boss, Justice Ombaso noted that the orders were issued between October 31st last year and February 6th, and they have never been enforced. The latest order was issued on February 5th, directing Ndanyi to escort members of staff and management of the hospital to access the facility after it was occupied by armed goons. Ndanyi failed to enforce the orders and was summoned to appear in court yesterday. Because of the disobedience of the lawful orders, Ombaso decided to recuse himself from the case just 8 days after he started handling it. 8 days, been handling it. Is like, wait, even before I came here, there were orders issued. I came, I took over the case, I've issued orders. Boss, you're not implementing orders. Nimewachia Mungu. Hii kesi mimi sifanyi. Sifanyi kama nilivyo msifanyi hii kesi.
So now they've left it.
Judge has recused himself. He said, let another judge be hired hereby. The presiding judge of the Environment and Lands Court. I call him judge mwingine me.
He's fine.
Yeah, I can't deal with this Ndanyi man. Mtu aniangalia tu hivi madharau hawezi implement order. Hai.
Na order zilikuwa mimi nilizi.
Niko na kazi nyingine ya kufanya mimi boss. Imagine what would make this police commander not implement this order. They are goons, they've come, they've locked up the place, they've done what, this and the other. The police are told, escort the staff back to their facility. The police don't act. Initially, the police had been told, make sure these goons are not there. The police don't even enforce that order. The goons leave their own free will, having chained everything up in that facility. What's happening? Who is Ndanyi afraid of? This police boss. Who's told him, nisikie umefanya hiyo?
You know, the story, when you look at it, it's actually bizarre. That in a so-called law-abiding country like Kenya, unidentified individuals who can only be referred to as goons can walk into a hospital, a health facility, weld things, take things, destabilize the entire infrastructure of the hospital, remove patients. I mean, where? How? Even in countries that people have known to be completely without any law enforcement that you can speak of. Have you ever heard of anything this bizarre?
No. Well, we have, but not recently.
No, I mean this is completely off color.
There's a serious land grab, and the land grabber is a serious.
The land grabber is a very serious person and somebody who clearly is feared by Mr. Ndanyi, because by the time.
And Ndanyi's bosses are also not taking action on him.
No, they're not.
You know, there's a regional police commander.
Yes.
This is just a county police commander who's not implementing this order. The regional police commander is not a good CEO story.
Which means he knows who is behind it.
Yep.
Okay, now once they've grabbed the land, then what?
She flats.
Or flats, eh? Okay, and the people of Nakuru will have accommodation. Of having one health facility less. A health facility that was already overcrowded. Now you have all the people who would otherwise have gone to War Memorial looking for healthcare in all the other facilities that were already overburdened.
Yeah. They may actually put up a private hospital there as well.
At this rate.
But this is ridiculous. The hospital exists. There is land in which you can build another hospital if you so wish.
No. This is free land.
Okay.
That other land I have to buy.
It is free, is it?
And I don't want it.
Right. And then one wonders whether those who are in power are going to continue thinking they are going to remain popular. It can't be. Such broad day, blatant disregard for anything that you can refer to as the law. As we watch, one court order disobeyed, another disobeyed, another. They have superseded Uhuru's disobedience of court orders.
Crazy. Even the jungle has a law, man. Even the jungle has a law and it's followed. Think about it.
Now,
and here we are, we're saying we have superior choice as human beings.
If you want to understand the impunity, I think these people have given us a completely new definition of it, wouldn't you? In case we thought we understood it, now let's understand it properly again.
It's headache inducing, man.
Anyway.
Tell us a story, City.
I am going to tell you a story. There's a story in the... it's in all papers. how the president has bagged 350 billion shilling deal with Japan on a 2-day visit. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. We are hoping to have all manner of things happening in this country. Yes. Among the things that is going to happen is there is an MOU that will help enhance the capacity of the Kenya Medical Research Institute to build on its pandemic management potential. This is 3 billion shillings worth of support and 3 million shillings worth of development. By the way, through JICA, a lot of what one sees in the Kenya Medical Research Institute, not all, a lot of it, was sponsored. If you look at the multipurpose hall and the trading hall that they have, it was built, literally built by JICA. Yes. CDC has come in and assisted enormously. Welcome Trust, we know, has done wonderful work in Kilifi and elsewhere. The truth is this. Every time we have a foreign government assisting us, the question that comes to my mind, are we being assisted through the process of a grant, or are we adding to the tax burden that we already have?
Some of them are loans. Remember when the Japanese ambassador was here and he was telling us about the money that they recently lent Kenya at, was it 0.1%?
Yes.
With a 10-year grace window period.
Yes.
And then 32 years to repay.
Yes.
It's basically like it's free money.
Yes. But those are monies we don't usually like taking. We prefer the commercial ones. And Japanese have they have a lot of money to lend. And the reason why they have that is because they have a saving culture. People save money like a nonsense in that country. Yes.
As guess our culture is sherehe. For example, what has happened in this place called Kiangai, it all began on Sunday afternoon, a day when women and men gather at the local shopping center for merriment. At the center of the dusty shopping center is a popular pub called California. Despite its simple structure, California is the place to be on Sunday evening in Kiangai.
Really?
Daniel Kenyo, one of the survivors, recounts the horror, his voice hoarse with emotion. He says he had gone with his father to have a drink. We were having a good time, laughing at jokes as my dad and I sipped our favorite drinks. Then at about 8 p.m. they left because they ran out of cash. So they had no choice but to bring the evening to a close. As they were leaving the club, they were singing and they were happy. There was music filling the air and revelers were singing and dancing. People were dancing. We didn't want to leave because it was just getting lively. But in a twist of fate, he recounts himself lucky to have survived what befell some of the revelers. He says he consumed different drinks on that day, trying out various types and flavors of drinks. Drinks here, by the way, go for between 40 and 50 bob a glass.
Oh, wow, okay.
Agnes Wanjiko's husband was among the unlucky lot. He died while receiving treatment in a hospital where he'd been rushed on Wednesday. According to her, this happened so Sunday, people kunywad, right? Monday, Agnes embarked on her routine trip to the local market, and then she started hearing rumors. Oh, you know, California. What happened? Oh, people who were at California last night, there are some people who have died suddenly. Huh? Yeah, others are complaining. Agnes was like, my God, my husband was in California. I left him asleep, went back home. We, amka. Nini mbaya. Watu wamekufa kwa sawa? Mimi niko sawa. Okay. That evening, things took a turn for the worse when her husband began complaining of pain in his eyes. She pressed him to seek medical attention, but he dismissed it as a minor issue. Wednesday morning, the husband woke up complaining weakness in the legs. We wasted no time and took him to Njenga's health center. The medics referred him to Kerogoya level 5 due to the seriousness of his condition. On their way to the specialized facility, the journey was prolonged due to the inability to raise the required 7,000 for his treatment. Sadly, he succumbed as he was receiving treatment. Yep. As in, just like that. And how many people are dead so far? More than 10 people have died so far from this drink. The proprietor of this bar in Baricho, Kirinyaga County, is being held in police custody. Police have asked to hold him for another 20 days as they conclude investigations of what has happened. Apparently, it's not the first time. They had taken him to court before, and he had been released, and he had come and opened the pub again. in this particular area. And now people have died. More than 10 people have died.
Hey.
And he will face counts.
My goodness.
I thought we had gotten rid of this.
Yeah. Apparently not.
It's back again, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's a big time.
And some people actually went blind as a result of this drinking.
Many. Time for the news, it's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto. Former TV anchor Jacky Maribe and Joseph Irungu, also known as Joey, will today know their fate in the Monica Kimani murder case. Judge Grace Nzioki earlier stated that she would give the judgment on the 15th of March. Court officials stated that all the parties agreed to the judgment to be delivered at 9 a.m. today. Maribe and Irungu, who are the main suspects in the case, will thus know whether they were found guilty or not. The ruling was initially said to be delivered last month but was postponed after Maribe failed to appear in court citing illness. Kimani's murder case had dragged in court since 2018, with Maribe and Joey lined up as the main suspects. So following up on this developing story, we shall be bringing you the very latest from 9 a.m. Now, parents in Makueni County have rejected the order by the government that requires them to pay school fees through the e-citizen platform. Led by Kaiti MP Joshua Kimilu, says that the order failed to consider the fact that some parents pay school fees through goods and services.
Capitation ile inapatiana na ministry kuja shuleni inachelewa. Sembuze pesa ambayo inatolewa na e-citizen kuja shuleni. Sasa hapo ndio ufisadi itakidhiri mizizi. Hiyo tumekataa kama wakazi wa Kenya na wakazi wa Makueni.
Parents have blamed the government for constantly implementing laws without considering their input.
Mimi niko na watoto niliwasomeshia hapa nikisaidiwa na CDM na nikisaidiwa na kuni na nikisaidiwa na kukoroga hii sabuni. Sasa hii citizen mimi naona inatesa wananchi na serikali ulituahidi ni bottom up. Hapa natafuta bottom up, Mheshimiwa Rais Ruto, natafuta bottom up inanipotelea. Kwa hivyo naomba Mheshimiwa, hii mambo ya hii citizen sijui itaenda kwa dunia gani, haitafanya kazi kwa hii dunia ya Kenya.
Yule alileta hayo mawazo ama hiyo decision ya kulipa karo na e-citizen ni mtu ambaye apendi wazazi wa Kenya na wazazi wa Makueni kwa jumla, kwa sababu unapata ya kwamba wazazi wengi katika hii hali ngumu ya uchumi hata wanaweza lipa karo kwa njia ya kupatiana vitu kama mafuno ya mashamba ama kuni, ama pia waende huko shuleni wakafanye kazi huko.
This event comes as court order stopped the move, but President William Ruto has maintained that it will be implemented in order to deal with cartels in the education sector. Meanwhile, Nairobi woman representative Esther Passaris has started a public debate after insinuating that she will sponsor a motion to get rid of school uniforms in the country. Speaking after buying school uniforms for 2 students she sponsored to join high school, Passaris said the school uniforms are expensive for students from poor backgrounds. She said there is no harm in students going to school without uniforms, insisting that school uniforms is a creation of the colonial master.
So I'm giving you 2 students, okay, 30,000 per student. I'm going to actually do something. I'm going to ban school uniforms in Kenya. I'm going to stop school uniforms in Kenya. These children cannot afford school uniforms. Europe, this is a colonial mentality for us to wear uniform. They go to school with their home clothes, they just buy sporting gear. You go into fashion. We won't keep you out of business. A tailor is a tailor, you'll make whatever. But this is crazy. How does any child in the slum afford 30,000 shillings for uniform? It's impossible. Greece banned uniforms. American schools don't wear uniforms. Some schools in London don't wear uniforms. France don't wear uniforms. And the students study. So you go to school with your home clothes. I mean, I'm sorry that I'm saying this in a school shop, but 30,000 is just ridiculous.
She added that if it's a must for school uniforms to be part of education, then the government will have to bear the cost of production and producing the uniforms through NYS and take them to schools where parents can access them at an affordable price.
No more school uniforms. We need to ban school uniforms because it's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's crazy. Unless we get NYS to make these uniforms and we give them to the schools and we have one standard uniform and we get it to a low price of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 shillings for a child. This is crazy.
Now, EACC has recovered 7 million shillings from 2 individuals linked to the misappropriation of public funds relating to the fraudulent procurement of 48.30 hectares of cemetery land in Athi River, Machakos County. Daniel Ngoko and Janelle Mulwa were identified as beneficiaries in the fraudulent acquisition of the land through an embezzlement scheme orchestrated by the defunct Nairobi City County in Athi River at an inflated cost of 283.2 million shillings. Justice Esther Baina directed the two to reimburse the 7 million shillings they had received, cover the legal expenses incurred by EACC, and pay an annual interest rate of 12% dating back to 2009, the year of the embezzlement. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
A few minutes after 7 o'clock, traffic is coming into the city this morning. Gong Road, as you get towards the CBD. In and outbound traffic is doing the thing as you get to the junction going towards Kenyatta. On the Thika Superhighway, it's heavy coming in on the drift past Survey. It's bumper to bumper through to the junction going towards Muranga Road, or that going towards Wangari Maathai. It's also heavy coming off of Limuru Road this morning, and that's where we have a hold up. And Manyanja Road has been doing the thing this morning, and so has Kangunda Road. So those are busy. Doesn't matter where you look. It's also busy coming off of Outer Ring this morning. So we're not going to see too much. For some reason, Friday traffic dissipates. Hopefully it'll do the same thing again today. We're going to keep an eye on things. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Welcome to the only way to Situation Room this Friday, the 9th of February 2024. Now live on KTN Home, in addition to live on SpiceFM on YouTube and Facebook, where we are live streaming the show. It's Friday. We always have a Health Friday conversation. We strive to have a Health Friday conversation every Friday, and we can. Today, we're going to have one. Last month was the Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and we still want to continue that conversation on what happens around cervical cancer. And so we're joined by Dr. Natabona Mabachi. She is an assistant research professor, University of Kansas Medical Center. Dr. good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Very good. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. We call that the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Okay.
Make yourself comfortable.
Thank you.
There's love in the air and love in the studio, you see? You notice? You notice?
I'm feeling it.
Yeah,
I'm feeling the good vibes.
Very good. Ednah can even do the panning of the camera around so everybody can see. We've got the love decker behind CT. See? Just looking. And behind Ndu. See? And I'm just here.
Receiving all of this.
Receiving all the love.
Okay.
And we're spreading it to you as well, Doctor.
Thank you.
And the reason we're doing all this is because, 14th of February.
Oh, Lord.
You know that date.
Right. Yeah.
Dreaded.
I think it's a scam, frankly.
Oh my.
Wait, hold on.
That's just me.
What's the scam?
Why?
Is love a scam or is the day a scam? You have to be very clear here.
I thought I was here to talk about cervical cancer,
You
but
are. Yes,
my 2 cents is why commercialize love? Every day is Valentine's Day, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So call me a bit sappy, but that's where I come from with that. Buy me flowers every day.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Including the 14th.
Including the 14th.
Okay, and the 14th, I can do more than that. You can buy you flowers and take you out to dinner.
Love it.
Ah, very good.
On board.
Tell her where
Okay,
we're
so
taking
now where he'll be taking you out to dinner is at the Sarit Centre on the 14th of February. Sarit, your city says, okay, fine. This everyday love that we are celebrating, come and celebrate it properly on the 14th of February. Sarit, your city, show up in
red,
burgundy.
Burgundy,
You see?
love it.
Burgundy
Okay.
and gold, those are the colors of the day.
Okay.
And you know there's going to be fantastic performances. Wahoo and Nameless will be there serenading everybody, and there'll be live performances, there'll be music, there'll be food, there'll be dancing, there'll be love in the air. So come on down, 6 p.m. Buy your tickets at ticketsasa.com. Regular single tickets are 3,000 shillings, 5,500 shillings for the regular couple, and 10,000 shillings for VIP couples. Everybody gets a welcome drink. Your VIP couples will go away with a glass of a bottle of bubbly on the table. Many great things will be happening that day. So let's take the love that's in the air and bring it down to the ground. Yes.
It peaks on that day, and then it plateaus from that point on.
Then you maintain.
You maintain.
it at that point. Okay. So in case it goes down, then 14th of February, up again. That's the whole point. City, please welcome Dr. Natabona with the day's proverb. Dr. Ari, every week, City goes to one African country and mines proverbs from that country, and then he comes and gives us a proverb a day. And the job of our visitors is to listen to the proverb and give us their interpretation of it.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
City.
Where the rooster, let me just preface it.
Yes.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Namibia. Okay. We chose this country to honor the recently departed president, who was a great friend of this country. Yes. Where the rooster crows, there is a village.
Where the rooster crows, there's a village.
There is a village. Okay. So rooster is usually the head of the chicken coop, right? So I'm assuming that signifies maybe head of household, head of home. And so if there is a good head of home, head of household, there is a good community that is built around that head of household, right? That's sort of where I think this is going.
You're absolutely right. You see the beauty of an interpretation. You cannot possibly be wrong.
Okay.
Yes, that is how the proverb speaks to you.
Got it.
Yes.
Head of household can be either male or female. I just want to say that too.
In this instance,
the rooster
female chicken cannot be rooster.
That's true.
Yes. But nonetheless, the point is well taken.
Thank you.
That's a good interpretation as well. It's a good interpretation, actually, you know.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Natabona Mabachi, you're from the University of Kansas Medical Center. Please tell us about that and what you do there.
So since 2009 until about 2 years ago, I was an assistant professor at the University of Kansas Medical Center in the Department of Family and Community Medicine. And the work that I do there focuses on public health issues, particularly around women, reproductive health issues, breast cancer, cervical cancer, sexual assault prevention. Those are sort of the areas that I focus on. I am also the director of evaluation and a senior research investigator at a research institute called Dartnet Institute, where it's purely research focused. So I kind of moved a bit away from the university setting to focus mostly on research. I do still teach medical students, but primarily now I focus on public health and women's health, both in the US and in Kenya.
Okay. So what kind of research have you been conducting in Kenya?
So I have been in Kenya launching a new project that was funded by the National Institutes of Health. And it's a cervical cancer screening, treatment, referral, and follow-up project. We developed a web-based tool to help our providers better track our patients through the whole cascade of cervical cancer care, to make sure that they get the right treatment at the right points, the right time. Because currently what's happening is that a woman first of all, may not get screened. So of our 10 million eligible women, 18 to 49 years old, only about 3.5% are getting screened, which is really low. When we're out in the field, some of the providers say it's as low as 1% out in the rural areas even. And cervical cancer is a highly preventable disease. So no one should be dying from it, but that's what's happening in Kenya and in other sub-Saharan countries. So we came up with this tool to help our providers ensure that our patients make it through the whole cascade of care. So screening, if you're screened positive, you get screened and treated. So the Kenya Ministry of Health guidelines are screen and treat. Don't let that woman leave the facility, because oftentimes when she leaves, she may not come back. There's so many barriers, especially in rural areas. It could have taken lots of money to travel, all of those things. So if we do find a precancerous or suspicious lesion on the cervix, get her treated there and then with either cryotherapy, which is where you freeze off the offending cells, or thermocoagulation, which is where you burn off the offending cells. And, you can escalate from there if you have deeper lesions, things like that. So our system basically acts like an action, a call to action. It will send alerts to providers if patient doesn't come back for appointments. It will send text messages to the patient reminding them of their appointments. It will send text messages to the provider, also alerting them, hey, patient so-and-so hasn't shown up. It will help with the referral process if somebody has got cancer, because that's another place where there's lots of gaps in Kenya. So it closes the loop, the communication loop, for services in the cascade of cervical cancer care.
Some of the things that you've talked about point to conversations that we've been having recently. And when we look at preventive care in this country, it's now falls, those things that you've mentioned now fall right in there. And talked about the fact that very few people actually go and get screened. And looking at the barriers to that, one of them is cost. Cost is a huge barrier to screening. And so obviously when we're looking at preventive care, we have to look at now the challenge of cost. And if we're saying, and another thing, then we're saying that if you find that somebody, at whatever level, she's come and gotten screened, and you find that she actually does have whatever level of this cancer, then do the screening and do not let her leave until she's treated. However, a lot of facilities will demand pay in order for this treatment to happen. So how are you playing between the two? Where we're saying there's the demand for treatment, but there's also the demand for payment. And the likelihood of folks to leave the treatment and walk out because of the inability to pay is much higher than those who do. So how do we then deal with that?
I 100% agree with you. Technically, in our government facilities, you should be able to be screened and treated by visual inspection, which is where you sort of use visual means to look at the cervix and then decide whether you need to treat. Technically should be free, or a nominal fee of like about 200 shillings, Kenyan shillings, which even still may be hard for some people. In private facilities, whole different issue. You're paying up to 1,000 for a pap smear, and it goes up from there. But technically the goal is in government facilities, you should be able to go either have it free or have it at a nominal fee, because one of the things the Kenyan government is absolutely committed to is the World Health Organization call to action, which is to get 90% of people HPV vaccinated. So that's the vaccine that can prevent you from getting the virus that actually can cause cervical cancer. 70% of women to at least get screened twice in their lifetime. And 90% of people who are diagnosed with some kind of precancerous lesion or cancer get treated. So it's 90%. And so they're working really hard to make sure that happens. Obviously, healthcare in this country is decentralized, so things may look different in different counties, right? But that's the goal here.
But also, as we talk about the barriers, one of them being costs, there are other barriers. So, for example, I'm sure very many women who are listening to this show will say that not all of them have undergone screening.
Yeah.
Not because they couldn't afford it, not because they don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
So why?
Well, there's several reasons why that happens. Number one, there's also a lack of knowledge, a lack of awareness. And I think that we can still do a lot of work around awareness raising of cervical cancer. And we need to do that more widespread, in a widespread way, just in the same way we did with infectious diseases like HIV. We need to do that. The other thing with cervical cancer is it's a reproductive health cancer. And in this culture and in other cultures, reproductive health can be a very sort of taboo topic, stigma attached. If you go for screening and you do come up with positive with cervical cancer, precancerous lesions, you might have a partner asking, what were you doing? Where did you get this from? Type of thing. There's a lack of understanding. There's also fear. What you don't know won't hurt you.
Yeah.
Right?
So you don't approach that.
So you don't, so there's this fatalism attitude of, if I don't know, it's fine, and if I die, that kind of thing, instead of actually going and finding out and getting the treatment for something that's highly preventable. So it's a myriad of social determinant factors that I think act as barriers for people to come and seek cervical cancer screening. The other thing is that we think of this as just a woman's issue, but it's not just a woman's issue. It is both a male and woman's issue, especially if you're in a partnership. I think that a lot of, in our culture, a lot of women will listen to their partners. Their partners are the ones who pay for the health care. And if they don't think it's important, it's not going to happen as well,
Could the character of this cancer also contribute to this? And I asked, and why you wouldn't go and get it checked out. So through this Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, or just reading the testimonies of folks who are either in treatment for cervical cancer or are in remission. And one thing that stood out is that you didn't have any symptoms.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't hurt or is not visible, or doesn't affect you physiologically, the likelihood of you going to check is, even now, I mean, not just about cancer, but what takes you to hospital
when you're sick?
You have a headache, you feel chills, something. That the sickness is not the headache; it's a symptom.
Yeah.
So there's a symptom that takes you to go and seek healthcare.
Yeah.
For cervical cancer, you really don't have any symptoms. So could that not be one of the reasons why? Well, I mean,
absolutely.
I'm not going to go and check if I don't feel anything.
The thing about cervical cancer is that it actually takes years to develop. And so if you don't have any symptoms, why am I going to the doctor? Especially when it comes to reproductive health stuff. Women hate going to the gyno. That's something we'd rather avoid, And so that plays a role. A lot of the times, by the time we're seeing women in facilities, it's because they're at a later stage. We're seeing them at stage 2B. They come only if there's something like, they're experiencing pain or smell or things like that. That's when they will show up. But I think this should be part of a larger conversation around prevention, preventative health in this country and elsewhere, is we need to take it more seriously. We need to do our yearly, going to see the doctor, even if we're feeling well, so that we can catch these things. The other thing about cervical cancer is that it's asymptomatic. So largely, and HPV, the virus that causes, the human papilloma virus that causes cervical cancer, asymptomatic as well. So you have people who are engaging in sexual relations not realizing that they're passing HPV. And by the way, there's 12 types of HPV viruses that could potentially cause cancer. 16 and 18 are the main culprits. But here you are engaging in all of these relationships, passing it around, nobody knows. And I have to say that with women, at some point, it's easier to tell just because of our reproductive health system. You can start telling if you get things like genital warts, things like that, but largely asymptomatic. In fact, over half the population at some point will get HPV, but will clear it. Right? Unless you get the kinds that cause cervical cancer.
You talked about conducting some research in Kenya. All right, now, who are you working with?
So we are working with a local organization who have been our partners for about 11 years now, because we've been working in the HIV space for a long time and have taken those lessons that we learned in HIV to cervical cancer. So Global Health Innovations, the director is May Maloba, who's an RN, a nurse. She's been working with us for years. So they are our on-the-ground partners here doing the work. We are also partnering with Honorable Gregory Ganda, who is the county health minister for Kisumu, and he is one of the leading experts in cervical cancer. Also working with Dr. Hilary Mabea, who works in women's health. I don't know if you've ever heard of Gynocare Fistula Clinic and Women's Health Clinic in Eldoret, but it's really the best clinic that addresses fistula, but he also works in cancer. And so our partners are also with Moi University, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, who will be helping us with referral services and things like that. So we're very entrenched in sort of the local research scene and working with people, clinicians and researchers who are very well versed with the healthcare landscape here.
True. May Maloba did work in the HIV field for a very long time.
You know May.
I know her very well.
Oh, there's no way we could get done what we're doing here without May, frankly.
Yes. It sounds maybe a little bit alarmist because maybe the question before then I asked, how bad is it when we look at the burden and the footprint of the spread of cervical cancer in Kenya? How bad is it? And even as you answer that, when we saw the pictures of devastation of HIV, that scared people into action. It sounds terrible, but it had the results, I think, had some kind of positive outcome because it got people to be a little bit more careful. And I mean, I've had a number of conversations with CT about the work that they did in terms of that communication. But it seemed as though it's something that needed to be done to kind of jolt people into the realization that your behavior then has an effect on how you could or could not be infected and then affected by the disease. But there's so many things that have been said about cervical cancer. The silent killer, you don't know about the symptoms. You're not going to go and check because you don't feel anything. But if we understood the burden and how bad it really is, then maybe that will jolt us into, more health-seeking behavior.
Well, according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer report, in 2020, we had about 16.1% of new cases of breast cancer, but it was closely followed by cervical cancer at 12.4%. And so that's really high. It's a non-communicable disease, so obviously the numbers aren't as high as infectious diseases right now, but they continue to rise because of our changing lifestyles, things like that. And when you think that about 500,000 new cases of cervical cancer are found globally, and 270,000 of those are in the global south, i.e. sub-Saharan Africa, to me, that shouldn't be happening. Why are we bearing the burden of a preventable disease like that as well? And 80% of women showing up with stage 2 is serious.
How do you integrate this process with the normal care seeking activities that women have within a hospital? Because if you segregate it and require people to specifically come for screening, that gets very tricky. But if it is part and parcel of what women go through, because if you look at care-seeking behavior of people, say in this country, women have a far more organized care-seeking behavior pattern when it comes to
than men.
Than men, yes.
Agreed.
Men tend to go to hospital when they're at death's door.
To chop off.
Yes.
Or their partners, their wives forced them.
Yes, yes. So that integration to ensure that it's actually just something that is considered normal when one goes to hospital.
That is such a good point. And integrated care services is something that the government is also working towards to specifically integrate breast cancer and cervical cancer care screening. Actually, it's quite integrated. So, for example, if you have HIV, it's part of your routine care through the CCC services. And just as a side note, HIV positive women living with HIV are 3 to 4 times more likely to get cervical cancer because they're more susceptible to opportunistic illnesses, things like that. But if you go for family planning, that's an opportunity point. Maternal health services, that's an opportunity point as well. So a lot of facilities are looking into this integrated care model.
See, where the problem arises is this. When you look at the care that was provided within a comprehensive care center, those services were predominantly financed through grants, assistance. Now, the integration I'm speaking about is where county governments, national government embrace it and they are the ones who run with it. Because funding comes to an end at some point.
It does.
Yes. And then when it does, then what?
You're lost. That's when a lot of facilities will run out of, CO2 gas for their cryotherapy machines, things like that.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the gaps. That's something that we can work on and we can do better. And I think that there has to be a way that every county has this as a line item in their budget for, health services in the counties. Some counties are doing that already to some extent, but again, it varies from county to county as well.
Let's take a break at this point. It's 29 minutes to 8. Our guest this morning is Dr. Natabona Mabachi. She is with .NET Institute.
Thank you.
And also an assistant research professor, University of Kansas Medical Center. We are talking about improving cervical cancer screening and treatment in the country. Ndu?
Yes.
Remind us, 30, how many countries?
35.
35 countries. Countries in Africa and 4 countries outside of Africa.
Including South Africa.
Including South Africa.
EcoBank is your Pan-African bank. Yes, indeed, 35 countries around Africa, or 4 outside of Africa, employing over 14,000 people and giving insights into ways in which banking can be done and having one bank that stretches across the length and breadth of the continent. A better Africa where you can have your transactions that are seamless and operate in a way in which you do not have to wait for morning, essentially. And they've also thrown their support as the only banking institution behind the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations, making everything a better you, a better me, a better Africa.
And because of their support, Nigeria is now in the final of the Africa Cup of Nations.
Yes.
Going to play the hosts, Ivory Coast, and that match is going to have 2 watering breaks. In each half, there's a watering break, right? Yeah. When we talk about water, let's take a water break here as well with Keringet. Own Your Richness. We'll be back shortly.
Smooth.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Across Africa, a new era has begun, connecting us with one purpose: to create and share opportunities to grow. Across our continent, across the world, we are creating a better way to a better future. A Pan-African future. Together. EcoBank. A better way, a better Africa.
Oh, finally! It's my standard courier delivery. At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier Service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
The sun is up in Nairobi this morning. It's 15 degrees. We'll see highs of 26 and we'll see highs of 27 in a partly sunny Nakuru. At 14, it's 15 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 26, while going to highs of 26, Eldoret is sunny at 11. Mombasa sunny at 27. We'll see highs of 34 today. It'll also be quite warm in Malindi, going to highs of 33. It's currently sunny at 28. Kisumu sunny at 21. We'll see highs of 30 and we'll see highs of 31 in a sunny Kakamega, currently at 18. Kampala is cloudy this morning at 19. We'll see highs of 29, and Dar es Salaam will see highs of 30. It's a sunny morning at 28. It's 18 and cloudy in Johannesburg, going to highs of 27. Mogadishu will see highs of 33, currently sunny at 26. Addis Ababa is cloudy at 14. We'll see highs of 24. A hazy Lagos continues this morning at 25. We'll see highs of 34 and highs of 31 in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 24.
Welcome to SpiceFM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Yikes. Lots of traffic this morning trying to touch on Outer Ring, so folks are trying to make their way out this morning on the Thika Superhighway. Not as heavy as it's been all week, but it is heavy all the same. Coming in from KCA out towards the Pangani underpass. It's going to be some movement there, and then folks getting along towards Muranga Road. It's heavy on Limuru Road this morning as you get into the city. And then on Waiyaki Way, we're seeing bits and bobs of traffic here and there as you pass Muga. Okay, keeping an eye on things this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag #TheSituationRoom.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The conversation continues with Dr. Mabachi. Improving cervical cancer screening and treatment in the country. You've been doing a lot of research on this field in this country. On this, we've talked about some of those barriers.
Yeah.
Lack of awareness, the cost, But like we were saying, City mentioned, women's healthcare seeking behavior is very different from men's healthcare seeking behavior. And you also said there are very many touch points with the health system. But family planning, visit a health facility, antenatal visits, having these conversations and all. So how can we then improve the screening aspect? Because as we brought in the other angle of the cultural issues and maybe mental barriers when you think about reproductive health screening. How can we change that? So that then these women who are going for family planning, who are, when they're pregnant, they're going for antenatal visits and they're having conversations with the doctor, they also can say, all right, at this particular point in time, I can go for screening and not even have to think negatively about it.
I think one of the areas that we are focusing, especially our partner Mema Loba is really trying to focus on, is involving male partners more. We think that's a huge gap. That's one of the crux of the matter. Lessons learned from HIV, encouraging women to come in with their partners to get tested was part of the big push, when we were talking about that particular disease. I think we need to do the same thing here. Reproductive health is not just a woman's issue, it's both a man and if you are having sex with somebody, both of you are involved, right? And if you are in a partnership with somebody, make sure that that person is also involved in the care, the healthcare cascade as well. For example, when it comes to HPV, get men tested. We need to raise awareness around that. Men are so oftentimes asymptomatic and tend to be oftentimes the culprits of passing HPV around, right? And so get tested. Make sure that you know your status in regards to HPV. And if you do test positive, let your partner know. Let your other partners know if you do have more than one partner, so that we don't continue this terrible cycle of spreading things around. But if both people aren't involved, then I think we're losing a big part of the puzzle here. So in our awareness of raising activities, I think we need to widen focus to include men and to include the couple as well, which again, we can take our lessons from HIV. They did it really well. We need to start doing the same thing as well for things like cervical cancer, even breast cancer. And I think we'll see much higher rates of screening.
City, you did this in terms of how would you frame that communication such that couples go for screening? Because you're going for screening, you're going for testing. You're telling the man, let's also go and you get tested for HPV. I'm getting tested for HPV. I'm also getting screened for cervical cancer.
Usually when you are talking about an outreach and you want to introduce a process or a service, you look at the target audience, the target group. So in the same way, if you want to reach out to men in an African society, you need to talk to them directly. And talking to them is to get them to understand the importance of this process and why it is they should be involved. Nothing complicated about that. You see, when you talk about maternal health care, usually the focus on women. And because of maternal health care, it is one of the reasons that there are two reasons why women could actually leave the homestead. I'm talking about a rural setting and visit the hospital. Either it's a market day, the partner husband will have no issue with a market day because it's something they understand, or they're going to a hospital if they have a small child. Now, men are removed from that reality because they don't do that. They market day doesn't. They relate to it, yes, but on the day when they're going to sell some livestock. But beyond that, no. As for hospitals, as I said, the conversation has to revolve around one, getting community leadership, who tend to be predominantly men, to actually, first of all, we started off with the chiefs. We would talk to these chiefs and the assistants and explain this is what we want to do and this is why we are doing it. And they, when they call their barazas, we would ask them to call men and we would talk to men. Now, in talking to men, it's not as though you have one conversation, that's the end of it. You then get granular and start talking to smaller groups of men. But part of the conversation was not talking to them to tell them, but to understand their apprehension, why it is they don't consider this to be important. And then also asking, what do we need to do in order to make it possible for you to participate and to do these things? Now, a lot of it had to, you had to demystify a lot of myths and misconceptions that men had about some of these things. Now, once the men were given the attention and the importance that they felt they needed, the second step of then accompanying their wives was not as difficult as it had seemed at the beginning. But they had to be involved and they had to feel that this matter has been explained to them and essentially that they were now taking charge of that particular process, meaning they considered it a big thing to be taking their wives to hospital. Yes.
In a rural setting, you have those platforms.
Yes,
you've got the chief who has access to a community. You've got, all these groupings. We are increasingly urban population.
Yes, we are.
Many of the people who are watching us and listening to us are urban.
They are.
How would you convince this population? Because remember, as I was saying earlier, Dr. many of the women who are listening today have not gone for screening.
Right.
Some have never gone for screening, right? Many of the men who are listening to this never really considered.
What's that got to do with me?
So how would we pass on this message that, okay, so it's important that we urbanites
there's
also consider this conversation, that we're not talking about how this can help the rural folk.
Eric, the urbanization we speak of has to do with the geographical area in which we live in.
Yes.
Our thinking is still very rural. we tend to think fairly traditionally as men. So it's not as though someone comes to town and they're suddenly urbanized beyond compare, and they're not.
Same.
So you look for in an urban setting where men would gather.
That's it.
And it is these places that you target with that particular message. And each of these gatherings will have people who are in the leadership. So again, the rural areas, we would be talking to chiefs. Here you'd be talking to the leadership.
Yeah.
And when you talk to the leadership, here, whether it's an MCA or whether it's a community leader, whoever it is, these are people who are listened to. And these are the gatekeepers whom you open this door to the conversation with. And you will be given a hearing. The thing about an African setting, people will give you a hearing. Once you've gone through the channels that they consider appropriate and respectful, when you want to talk, they will listen to you. Now, it's a question of how you want to explain it from the perspective that men would deem as being important to them.
I agree. Going into men's spaces, going to where they are. One of the things we are doing is doing focus groups with men to find out exactly some of these things that you're talking about, and also the ways that they want to be communicated with that will resonate the most with them. So like you said, understanding the myths surrounding this, helping them to see, understanding what they think about this, like why does this involve me? Why is this important to me? So what is the type of awareness raising we need to also be doing? What are the types of conversations we need to be doing so that they can become the rooster that crows, right? To go back to the proverb. Because I don't know about your experience, but oftentimes when a man thinks it's his idea, it's a good idea, right? So
he really pushes that
he'll
idea.
push it, and he'll push it in the home.
Yes.
Right? And if he has young daughters, he may even suggest, let's take her for HPV vaccination so that we can make sure that she's safe. Those kinds of things. So this is why we think that involving men is imperative to the success in increasing our screening rates, our vaccination rates, and all of those good things.
The preventative aspects, of course, the screening. What are the success rates of treatment because we found cervical cancer early?
Really high. I mean, we are talking 80+% success rate if you catch it early enough.
Okay, and what's early? Stage 1?
Stage 1, stage 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and those stages you can, do a hysterectomy or a radical hysterectomy, or you can start chemotherapy or radiotherapy. But if you get it early enough where it hasn't spread, hasn't become invasive, it is treatable. And that's, secondary prevention. But primary prevention is getting the vaccine. So getting our young girls and boys, although right now we're focusing on the girls, vaccinated. Also, you can get vaccinated up to the age of 45 years old. Just FYI. So that's also an option as well, protecting yourself in the first place from the most virulent strains of HPV.
So treatment sounds really radical here, and we're not just talking about, radiotherapy or chemotherapy. We're talking about hysterectomy. That's and body altering treatment, So there are certain things that you will not be able to do after that. So, and this is what we're saying. Treatment essentially means removing a part of your body. We're not saying, or are we saying that treatment also includes localized attack of those offending cells, and that you could still remain with all your physiology in place?
Yeah. So that treatment I was talking about is if you have invasive cancer.
Okay.
If you have precancerous lesions, then that's when you do the cryotherapy, where you freeze off the offending cells, the suspicious cells. Thermocoagulation, where you burn them off, and it's a quick procedure, like 15 minutes. It's not very painful. You can take ibuprofen, whatever it is, afterwards. Or if you have a deeper precancerous lesion, you can do something called LEAP, which is loop electrosurgical excision, which sounds like what it is. You excise the offending cells. So those are pretty low stakes. It's not messing with your reproductive health. It's not messing with your ability to have children. It's when you have invasive cancer, now we have to start getting radical. the point here is let's get to you before we have to do any of that. And I think that's also part of the fear is I want to be able to have children. I want to still have my reproductive organs, you know. This is why we stress screening so much. Because if we can catch you early, none of the rest needs to happen as well. And if you keep going, you know, go back for if you're HIV negative, it's every 5 years. If you're HIV positive, it's annually. If they did find precancerous lesions and maybe they did cryotherapy or thermocoagulation every 3 years, go back to get rescreened.
Up to what level can you find screening available?
You can
level of health facility, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You can get it at level 3, 4, level 5 are referrals. You can get them at level 5. So pretty community focused screening you can get in most of the facilities. And if you can't be screened at one facility, what most likely they'll do is refer you to the next level facility that can get you screened. Again, varies county to county.
Okay. All healthcare workers well trained to conduct screening?
That's a great question. Ideally, yes. The issue is that sometimes you have to sort of have continuing medical education every 6 months or so. That's the part that's hard. I'll never forget when we were doing a pilot for the cancer tracking system in one of our facilities. We had a thermocoagulation machine and it wasn't being used. Why? Because even though the nurses or the clinical officers had been trained to use it, they weren't feeling confident, right? We just had a meeting with our counties and the county providers. One of the things they talked about is sometimes you're looking at the cervix and you don't know what you're looking at. You know, so a lot of that is it has to be continuous medical education. There has to be a team care aspect to it where you can, you know, ask somebody, refer to some, consult with somebody, you know, like Dr. Ganda, you know, or May, our nurse, things like that. And so this is sort of disjointed across counties. So one of our goals as we roll out our study is educating our providers. So we've spent a lot of time just doing refreshers on cervical cancer, what cervical cancer looks like, the treatment guidelines, you know those by heart, all of those things, how you should be keeping really good data. I don't know if you all know that currently we still use those ledger books. A lot, especially in the rural areas.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And sometimes because a center may have maybe only 1 or 2 people who are doing the screening, they don't get filled out properly. So we don't get a really good picture of what's going on in that facility, which spirals into we're not getting a good picture of what cervical cancer looks like in the whole country because the reports provided to county aren't full and detailed.
What is the problem? Sorry, no, go ahead and do. No, please, go ahead.
So this is interesting because just, you know, some months ago, government hired 100,000 CHVs. 100,000. CHPs, sorry. And of course, with the basic first aid, basic primary health care mechanisms, essentially to go from place to place. And a couple of weeks ago, we also did hear about how there was now a simplified test or screening for cervical cancer. Wouldn't it be a fantastic place to body up here? To then actually see that you're actually doing the screening, because we are saying that the screening is extremely important. There's 100,000 of them now around who I feel they should be paid a lot more. And of course, those are conversations for later. But is this not something that we could do to then make sure that your screening profile raises significantly?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's a lot of opportunities for community-based screening where we use our community health personnel, community health workers, train them to go out into the community and to widen the scope of people who are getting screened. There's a huge opportunity there. There are models out there where they're called like cervical cancer screening community camps type of thing, where you sort of will roam from community to community, gathering the reproductive health, you know, aged women and things like that. Because not everybody can get to the facility. That's one of the barriers. So let's go to where the people are. I think that has worked for other diseases. It can work for this as well. Cervical cancer, especially, even can lend itself to home testing.
You know, the whole model of how health facilities work in this country has always required tweaking, periodically so. Now, HIV proved this. One, because you'll find the individual healthcare provider who was referred to as a nurse did everything.
Yeah.
They are the ones who would ensure that they receive the patients. They are the ones who would take the record. They're the ones who would take your height. They do everything. So you want to ask the question, what medical training do you actually need to take someone's temperature to measure their height? Or what medical training do you actually need to fill in a ledger?
You don't. You just need to have the proper training, and you can get it done. Look at the mentor mothers we had for HIV. That was exceptionally good and worked really well. I've worked with some amazing mentor mothers who just, I think, radically changed the way the face of HIV and how
They
people
did. And the peer educators whom we had. You see, if you look at the CHPs, as we call them now, rolling them out is all good and well, but the landscape where HIV prevalence was very high, there are very many well-trained community health personnel, really trained. You talk about cancer screening, you'll find them. All these things that are now being cobbled up and being brought up as new, you'll find people who are even better trained. The thing that concerns me about these community health providers is this. Is their curriculum for training them? Just equipping somebody with some electronic gadget is not enough. They have to have a certain amount of healthcare knowledge. They must have.
Agreed.
And then
continuous.
And then it must be uniform, so that when you come across a community health provider, you know this person has this sort of understanding. Otherwise, they will not be very, very useful, even in the role that they have been given. That's one. Secondly, the push to actually have the services we are speaking of being integrated. I know of the battle and the long struggle to actually have HIV care and treatment integrated into everyday healthcare. Just a struggle, all right? And even when you appear to be getting there, the question that was always asked is the funding.
The funding, always.
Yes, because healthcare facilities in the country were accustomed to that being funded for them. So asking them to take over was always a problem. Now, if we bring in cancer screening, cervical cancer screening, and we say this is something that must be integrated, at some level it has to be funded. But what system and structure do you put in place so that within a certain and specific period of time, the healthcare facilities and the healthcare system in the country actually takes it over?
The million-dollar question, isn't it? And one of the things I think that we are working really hard towards as part of our project is we're doing a cost-effectiveness analysis alongside the rollout of our cancer screening, treatment, referral, and follow-up project, because we have to understand how feasible is this for our county governments to take over? How feasible is it to be scaled up? More importantly, how much will it cost? And what are the costs versus benefits in regards to how much a county government spends, healthcare ministry spends, versus the quality of life improved for the patient, right? I am a public health practitioner. I'm always for quality of life of the patient. But I understand that costs and money and understanding those upfront is important as well. And so that's something that we are really interested in monitoring and then sharing with our local county governments. And in fact, it's something that we have conversations with them about. And we had conversations in developing our cancer tracking system.
In how many counties have you been working so far?
So right now we're in 2 counties. We're in Siaya County and we're in Busia County. They are high population counties. They are counties that have historically had high HIV rates as well. And we have had really good partnerships with Siaya County, because we've been working in Siaya County for a long time. Now we're working with Dr. Ambuchi in Busia County as well. So we're in 10 facilities in these 2 counties, testing out the system. So it's one thing to develop a technology, a piece of innovation. It's another thing to see that it actually works on the ground and there's uptake of it. And that's what we're really interested.
Is there a cost associated with it?
Yeah, with the system, there's the cost of the servers, because it's, data is going into it. We have to make sure it's protected, all of those things. We do have a programmer Kevin, who helped develop. He developed the system, so there's his time as well. So those are the current costs, but otherwise it's something that as long as
the user, it's free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Free. They don't have to be anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Rui, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Very, very good conversation and very good work that you're doing. Keep doing that and say hello to the team as well.
I will. Thank you for having me.
Dr. Natabona Mabachi is with the .NET Institute Research and also an assistant research professor, University of Kansas Medical Center. She's been our guest in this Health Friday conversation. Keep it here for more in the next hour. It's 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Council of Governors is decrying the high number of health professionals leaving the country, saying the brain drain is leaving Kenyans exposed. COG Health Committee Chairperson Muthomi Njuki is now calling for a review of policies that lead to health workers leaving, saying that as it is, the number of doctors in the country is too low to handle the 50 million Kenyans. According to the Tharaka Nithi governor, the number of doctors in the country is low and the situation is made worse by doctors who leave the country in pursuit of greener pastures abroad. COG data reveals that 362 doctors are away on study leave, while 135 have completed their scholarships and are expected to be back in the counties.
14 to 10,000. So even when we talk about exporting health workers, it is a paradox because we are giving away the cream de la cream. We spend as African countries a lot of money in training our health workers, and we are giving them out for free to Western world. At the ignorance of assuming that they need jobs because they're jobless, yet our health facilities have a shortage. While we are complaining we're having a brain drain of doctors and nurses who are going to Western world, we as a government are not able to afford to employ them because we do not have the resources.
A rescue mission turned tragic when a middle-aged man was stabbed to death by an enraged woman in Kapli Mewet area of Cape Koyan, Belgut sub-county in a suspected love triangle. According to eyewitnesses, the man was stabbed to death while attempting to rescue his mother-in-law, who was allegedly fighting with another woman over a man. The man, who lived in rental houses on the same plot as his mother-in-law, heard the commotion from the adjacent rental houses and rushed to investigate. When he arrived at the scene, he discovered his mother-in-law fighting with another woman who lived in the same plot. Residents of the plot claimed the two were fighting over a man who was in a sexual relationship with the assailant, but they had heard rumors that the other woman was also having a similar affair. Abdulaziz Swaleh, a 20-year-old man from Mombasa, has found himself at the center of a gruesome murder trial involving his grandmother. The case took a decisive step forward Thursday as Mombasa High Court Lady Justice Anne Onginjo ruled that Swaleh has a case to answer in the brutal killing of his 80-year-old grandmother, Sharifa Ali Salim. Swaleh reportedly committed the gruesome murder in Old Town on January 21st, 2023. Swaleh's hearing has been slated for March 1st, 2024. Now, a teacher in Embu has allegedly committed suicide after being rejected by a woman he was pursuing. In a note left behind, the teacher allegedly asked the area MCA to organize his send-off and have the woman who rejected him read his eulogy. The teacher also noted that he should be buried on Valentine's Day, which is next week, and provided the photo to be used at his funeral. He protested at how he tried to open up to his closest family and friends in a concluding note expressing his frustration and a decision to take his life. On a sad note, and the bodies of 13 Sudanese migrants have been recovered and 27 others are missing after a boat sunk off the coast of Tunisia, having set off from Sfax. The boat was carrying 42 people, all of them Sudanese, and 2 people were rescued, according to the judge of Farid Ben La. Tunisia replaced Libya as North Africa's main departure point for people fleeing poverty and conflict elsewhere in Africa and across the Middle East in the hope of a better life in Europe. Now, 5 U.S. service members missing after their helicopter crash this week in Southern California have been confirmed dead. The CH-53E Super Stallion helicopter crashed while flying from Creech Air Base in Nevada to Marine Corps Air Station in Miramar. The Marine Corps said efforts to recover the remains of the crash victims are begun and an investigation is underway. President Joe Biden said he was heartbroken as the loss of the service members. And violence marred several of Pakistan's polling stations as millions voted in an election in which all dynasties vied for power, while the country's widely popular former leader languishes behind bars. Polling stations across the country were beginning the count after polls closed Thursday evening, according to Pakistan's Electoral Commission. The much-anticipated election, already delayed for months, comes as the country of 220 million faces mounting challenges from economic uncertainty and frequent militant attacks to climate catastrophes that are putting its most vulnerable at risk. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so traffic this morning at a few minutes after 8 o'clock. Still seeing some of that heavy coming off of Waiaki Way, and then also then the thicker superhighway that has grown through towards the GSU headquarters, coming in towards Outer Ring. We're also looking at traffic on Limuru Road. It's heavy as you come into the CBD. Waiaki Way is flowing, not too much there. It's built up on Jogo Road, heading towards Landis and then out towards Kamkunju. We haven't seen traffic there in a bit. Coming off Langata Road is also pretty heavy as you head towards the Rilo Dinga Way and then through towards Arboretum. Uhuru Highway is taking off a lot of this morning, so at your different points you will see bits of traffic. So I think we'll get through this without too much of a headache, but just to let you know that that's what's popping this Friday. We'll keep an eye on things this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag #TheSituationRoom.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
On the 14th day of February, my true love gave to me
a love in elegance dinner.
What's that all about?
Elegance in Love dinner is taking place on the 14th of February. Okay? It's at Sarit Your City. It starts at 6 p.m. This is the place to show you. So how will I know if you love me, Eric? How will I know if you really love me?
Eric, why don't you just let him do the singing?
You want him to key.
No.
How will I?
Go.
How will I know if you?
You're an octave lower.
Sorry. So if they're asking you that question, how will I know if you love me? Take them to the Elegance in Love cocktail dinner that's happening at Sarit Your City on the 14th of February. It starts at 6 p.m. So, you have the whole day to plan, do your makeup, do your thing, whatever. And you would have already gotten your burgundy and gold outfit before then, I'm sure. So, Wahoo and Nameless will be crooning the night away, some of those specials for you, live performances. There'll be lots of music. There will be great entertainment. The food will be off the charts. And if you go as a regular single, you spend 3,000 shillings for a ticket. If you go as a regular couple, you spend 5,500 shillings. And if you go as a VIP couple, where you will get a bottle of bubbly on your table, you will pay 10,000 shillings. You do all of this on ticketsasa.com. Enjoy a night of love, music, food, dancing, all sorts of things at Sarit Your City, and celebrate love. That's how you'll know if they love you.
You're pressuring too much. You're pressure, man. Too much.
You want to answer the question? That's how you answer.
Yeah. Hey, Cyprian Nyamomu is our next guest in the next hour. He is the director of Future of Kenya Foundation. Among very many other things, he's been in the civil society space for decades. Cyprian, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Eric, and all of you, Team A.
Hata Team B pia wasalimie.
You are the Team A. You are looking good in the new year.
You too.
Good to see you, Cyprian.
Yeah.
You too.
I've been following the excellent work you're doing, and you're helping the country.
City is going to welcome you to this conversation with the day's proverb. He's being supported this last couple of days by EcoBank, the bank that is in 4 countries outside Africa. And 30, how many countries inside Africa?
5.
Yes, and 35 countries inside Africa. Can you guess any of the countries, Cyprian?
Where they are?
Yes.
Kenya, obviously.
Did you say done?
EcoBank.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been following them since they came here. Yeah, the leadership there have been our friends. I know they are very strong in West Africa. There's this one strange country where they are very, very strong. Is it Cotonou or something like that? Where Cotonou is the capital, I think.
Cotonou is in Benin.
In Benin.
Yeah.
That's not the country.
Okay. Lomé. It's the
Togo.
headquarters.
Togo. Yeah. Togo, Lomé. Yeah. I know their headquarters there.
Very good.
Yeah.
You know quite a bit about them. Tell us more, Ndu.
14,000 employees around their network. It's a Pan-African bank, so you can imagine the representation from country to country. They're in a number of counties here in Kenya. And then, of course, many express agents around as well. Essentially just making it easier for you to have your banking done. So if you're domiciled, for example, in Togo, and you decide that you're going to travel and you live in South Africa, you don't have to move banks. You can just continue on with your banking, and that is essentially making it a better Africa, is what we're talking about. Seamless transaction around the continent. And they're also throwing this kind of support behind the CAF Africa Cup of Nations that comes to a head tomorrow.
Yeah.
Better Africa.
Sunday.
I beg your
is the
pardon.
final.
Tomorrow, the other Sunday. And the other tomorrow.
The other tomorrow.
Yes.
The tomorrow of tomorrow.
Exactly.
City.
Yes.
This week's proverbs are from?
The Republic of Namibia.
Is it because they are mourning?
Yes.
The loss of the president?
This was in honor of the late president, who was a great friend of this country.
He was.
Yes. So we felt it was appropriate that we should honor his passing by featuring the proverb from his country the whole of this week. Yes. Where the rooster crows, there is a village.
Where the rooster crows, there is a village.
So you see, first of all, the rooster is domesticated by people, and I think the rooster means either the worker or the timekeeper in that sense, meaning that there's a village. And in the case of a country, I think a rooster would be, people like whistleblowers or people who champion certain behavior or certain conduct. And every country has it is roosters. And in our country we have champions of that nature. So that is how I would want to associate it.
Chiti?
I am always fascinated by the way people interpret proverbs, and usually the interpretation will tie in very closely with what they do.
Yes.
Meaning the lenses through which they look at life will greatly influence the flavor of the interpretation. Yes. It's a good interpretation.
It's a good one.
Yes.
It's a good one.
Because a rooster, that crowing in the morning, it is whistle blowing. Telling you where, it's dawn. Get up. Every once in a while you find some crazy ones. 2 in the morning they're crowing and you're thinking, what is wrong with this rooster?
Where I come from, we change those ones. Immediately. Yeah, immediately. Yeah, they are said to be bad omen. So they are slaughtered.
And do you eat the bad omen?
Well, of course.
No, the meat is not the bad omen.
It's the spirit.
It's the spirit.
It's the spirit.
Yes.
Our topic of conversation this morning when we invited you, Cyprian, is the cost of being poor in Kenya. Let me lay the context. We know what has happened in a village called Kianjai in Kirinyaga, where people went to consume alcohol at a pub called California, and many of them later developed complications. More than 10 have died. Many have gone blind. There's a story of one of those people. Agnes Wanjiko's husband, who was among those that were drinking on Sunday night at this California pub. He went home, slept. Following morning, Agnes Wanjiko goes to the market because that's what she does. She sells at the local market. She hears people saying that guys who were drinking at California last night, there are few who have just developed sudden complications and died, and others are complaining. And she thought, my husband was in California, I left him home, so let me go back home and check. She goes back home, she finds the husband is fine. She asks him, are you okay? Yeah. Have you heard what has happened? No. What has happened? People have started dying. He's like, I'm fine. That's Monday. Spends the whole day Monday, okay. Tuesday, he starts developing complications. Like, he's feeling like he's seeing marudurudu. That is, seeing hazy things. And she's like, why don't you go get checked? The man says, nah, this will pass. I'm okay, I'm all right. I'm not feeling anything else anywhere. Tuesday night, he starts feeling complications in other parts of the body, complains of aches in his joints and legs. And they immediately decide, no, we need to take you to a health facility. On Wednesday morning, her husband woke up complaining of weakness in the legs. They wasted no time and took him to Njenga's health center. The medics referred him to Kerogoya Level 5 hospital due to the seriousness of his condition. She says, we made our way to the specialized facility, but the journey was prolonged due to our inability to raise the required 7,000 shillings for his treatment. Sadly, he succumbed as he was receiving treatment. This is somebody who was being taken to hospital, was being rushed to hospital, but they had to detour to look for money that would be necessary for his treatment. Now, we do not know, but probably because of the timing of arrival from Njenga's health center in their village to the Kerogoya Level 5, As he was getting treatment, he died. We also have the stories of what happened in Embakasi last week. Many people were ending up in hospital, and we heard the stories of many saying that they would get to the facility, they're told, all right, we've run out of medicine, please go to the kiosks out there and buy medicine. Many did not have, many could not afford. Many people whose structures were demolished by the fire were left homeless. Many now had to be contributed for to go and live somewhere. The county government is said to have donated some money and said, you can go and live here for a bit, but that's just short term. Not talk of long-term relocation or long-term support. Many of those in hospital, we've heard also very many accounts, many of those in hospital are nursing some severe burn injuries. Many will have to go through many months of treatment. Many of them were breadwinners for their families. Many will not be able to resume working for many months. There's no talk of support of what happens to them. Now, if you juxtapose this with what we see with other sectors of society or other social cadres, then you can see clearly that those who are poor pay a higher cost for just being alive. Whether it's treatment, even before the fire, the people in Embakasi, did they have piped water in their homes? No. Were they buying water? Yes. How much per liter compared to how much you're paying for water in other parts of the city where there's piped water being provided? Higher. How much are they paying to live on a day-to-day basis? Much higher. It's expensive to be poor in this country. Why, Cyprian?
That is it's failed governance. Poverty is actually a manufactured condition. Nelson Mandela is the one who spoke about poverty as clearly as I can remember, and he actually called it a man-made condition. There's nowhere where there are poor people because of their ethnicity or their religion or anything else. It is because the poverty has been generated by the failed governance system in that place. So where you see poor people, you know that there is failed governance. And failed governance means there's failed leadership. There's failed leadership because everywhere on earth, there are people who have been given the obligation to take charge of the affairs of that place, even in family settings. I say that because you've captured it very well. I need to tell you that when I was living in Mathare, when I was in college, and I lived in Mathare and Kibera. Those days we used to call it Kibera. These days they call it Kibra. One of the things I realized is that my cost of cooking oil, particularly because I remember that, was always much higher than when I used to go and visit my sisters, for example, who are living in slightly better places like Buruburu. Because the reason is because we could not afford to buy cooking fat. Actually, it was cooking fat those days in large quantities. So the Mama Pimas who Pima at the village level, at the slum level, only Pima for you in terms of scoops of spoons. So they scoop one and you pay 10 bob for that. When you look at the number of scoops in a month and the amount of money you've paid, you realize that you actually pay like 2.5 times more. What that, 1 kg or half a liter or half a kilo actually costs in a supermarket. So it is actually true that poorer nations and poorer people pay more for everything, mainly because they cannot be able to afford things at economies of scale, and because what they normally end up consuming is what has been rejected from the mainstream of what the rest of the people consume, the fruits that people eat in these particular places, everything else. It is a massive disadvantage, and it is because of failed governance. The gas explosion that happened in Embakasi is because the Nairobi City County has not enforced the basic standards in terms of who can be able to operate gas dispensing and gas dealing in the city, for example. Everywhere it's because basic commodities are lacking. And to close that, Eric, I want to say that the day in 1990, 1992, all the way to 1995, that basic goods and basic services were privatized because of the IMF and World Bank SAPs, as we call them, SAPs, structural adjustment programs and conditions, is the day we threw away the country, because things that are supposed to be very basic for one to have dignity and the right to life were taken away. They have never been accessible since the structural adjustment programs. The privatization of life is how systems fail and is how governance collapses. So that is why the poor pay the cost of failed systems everywhere, because the policies encourage the privatization of everything so that there is financial concentration of finance at the top. It's a long conversation, but luckily there's an answer to what can be done. Right now, the condition is unbearable for most of Kenyans.
You know, when you say unbearable, what do you mean?
Unbearable because the Infotrack January research said that 73% of Kenyans can hardly put 2 and 3 meals a day on their tables. That is unbearable because in economics, what we interest ourselves most is nutrition, because nutrition does not just have a problem about today. It has a problem in the coming generation because children get stunted and they generally do not do well in class. If you remember the Moi days, that is why milk used to be given to schools, because once children's nutrition fails, they get stunted over a long period of time, and in 10 years' time, you have a population which is not innovative, which is not creative, and that is why economies actually shrink because of failed nutritional provisions, for example. It's unbearable because 73% is a huge population which cannot be able to afford basics, and they generally don't have money. This Christmas was probably one of the worst in a long period of time for Kenyans. Most people did not travel. Those who traveled could not be able to do the basic things that we normally do during Christmas. When schools opened this year, because of the failure partly of help, a lot of people have had to open WhatsApp groups to do the fundraising for the most basic things. The government itself says that nearly 300,000 children did not report to Form 1. That's a huge number by government's own admission. Tells you that things have really gotten out of hand. That's why I use the word unbearable.
And so when things get out of hand, that what you see essentially is that a snowball effect starts to take place. Because the areas that Eric has mentioned where there are issues, unfortunately, are not the only areas where you can see examples of where it is expensive to be poor, or it is expensive to be on the lower side of the economy. And it goes for anything. That if you're poor, that your access to healthcare also is an issue, because the likelihood of you contributing to any kind of social fund then is next to nil. that 500 shillings, that 700 shillings, that 1,000 shillings per month to be able to put towards a nest egg of insurance for future incidents of health is impossible. And not because you do not want to, because you're not aware of it, that you just don't have it. That if you're poor today in the country and your child is called to school, even if there is free education in the country,
they will not report.
Deem that whatever it may be, they will not report. We had an example of that in the studio last week, and that there are hundreds, I mean, it breaks my heart, that there are hundreds of thousands of students today who did well, for all intents and purposes, did very well, but cannot go to school because their parents do not have 1,000 shillings, talk less of the 20,000 shillings, to take care of the full uniform. Right? It's expensive. If you're sick, you're doomed because it's expensive. If for some reason you break the law today and the justice system requires that you should pay fine or you should pay bail and you can get out, and you do not have that money, you remain on remand forever. Those are the live situations that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
If we can see them, those who are in positions of policy and action can see them too. What would it take?
I don't think they see them.
Oh, they see them. And that's why it makes it worse, Cyprian. They see them and they do not do anything about it. That's what makes it worse. For me, that is the ultimate wrongdoing that you can do to a nation. That you see the problem, and by not doing anything about it, you make a conscious decision not to. And for me, that worsens your position. So, are we saying that it is impossible to do something about this, and that is why it's not being done? Or are we truly living in the jungle? But even then, I said earlier this morning that the jungle has laws even.
We keep talking about the jungle. The jungle is very organized and structured.
Yes.
People do not kill their children. In the jungle, nobody kills, no animal kills another if it is not for food. That's the only thing they do there.
If they're protecting
their progeny, their children and their families. So Kenya is actually in a worse-off situation, but I like the fact that you are on the same place from where I started, that poverty everywhere in the world, and that's why we do the problem tree, because a lot of the time we discuss the fruits of poverty, and we can see them. They are up there. There is poor health, poor nutrition. There is, deaths, increased number of deaths. There is gender-based violence. There is marriages that fail, families that collapse. A lot of crime, insecurity. Those are the fruits, and that's what a lot of us discuss. We discuss the fruits of the tree, but we don't discuss two areas that are most important. What is sustaining this system, which is the stem? And then what are the root causes of this poverty and these consequences that we are talking about? And that's important because governance is what is at the root cause. Governance and failed leadership is what is at the root cause of that tree. In the middle, there is what we call the sustaining factors and forces, and there are mainly three. The first of those is what we call ethnic, mobilization, ethnic validation, ethnic grouping, which normally defeats competence and accountability. The second, of course, is corruption, which is an offshoot of poor governance and leadership, but is a major sustaining factor, right in the middle there, about trouble. But unfortunately, religion is the third. When we talk about the sustaining factors, those three are very, very important because poor governance and poor leadership everywhere in the world is sustained by these three factors: religion, corruption and ethnic or racial or those kinds of identities that people look at, and they do not ask the questions of governance and leadership. Because of those root cause and the sustaining factors, we then talk about the outcomes that we are talking about. We are talking about the gas explosion, people who are not going to school this year, in the increasing number of people who cannot be able to put food on their tables, the increased violence, the increased crime, the gender-based violence, a lot of the femicide that we have been seeing in the demonstrations this year. Why are people being killed? They are being killed to be sold for organ harvesting and rituals and all those kinds of things. So we have to really see that at the bottom of the conversation that we are having today is governance. Is a failed governance system. And number two is a failed leadership problem.
Okay.
A failed leadership problem. So that's really what we are talking about. And let me dare say this, Eric. All this that we are discussing is about the quality of citizens that a country has.
Quality of citizens.
Quality of citizenship is what dictates everything that happens in a country.
The leadership and the governance.
From 2002, our quality of citizenship has been depreciating, has been getting worse every single year. With every passing year, it has been getting worse. And if you look at our parliaments, from the 10th parliament to the 11th to the 12th and now the 13th, each of the succeeding parliaments has been getting worse. With the numbers of criminals, the numbers of wash, the numbers of all that has been increasing as well.
Quality of citizenship. Let's take a break. Cyprian Nyamuamu, Director, Future of Kenya Foundation, is our guest today. We're having this conversation for the next 2 hours on the cost of being poor in Kenya. What does it mean? It means a lot. This is Keringet Water Break. Remember, Keringet is telling you, own your richness. Have a sip of water, Cyprian. And City will remind you that Keringet water comes with a lot. It comes with minerals.
Plenty
of minerals. Natural.
Plenty of minerals.
Including magnesium.
Well, yes, it does. And calcium and sodium. And zinc and iron. Now you'll ask, why am I looking at all these minerals? Well, it's really very simple. It starts with water. 60 to 70% of your body is actually water. Now, these minerals that we speak of are the ingredients required for every part of your body to actually function effectively. It's not really complicated. Now, if you look at all these minerals, they all do something different. Some minerals make your bones strong. Some make your teeth strong. Some help you avert cardiovascular diseases. Some help you with eyesight, and some help you with X, Y, and Z. There are all these things that are useful for you and very meaningful in your body. So when you drink water, you're drinking life.
And your X, Y, Z will be good.
Yes.
Very good.
I actually wanted to ask what.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Patrick Lodge, Otieno Lumumba. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
CT Muga.
CT Lodge.
Muga, not Muga.
He's here, and here's the day's proverb.
One man marries a woman. Another man marries troubles.
Is he the same man?
Spice.
A lion cannot eat more than 2 donkeys. It would die a natural death because there is no ICU in the forest. In Kenya, it has become the situation that you cannot conduct 2 elections. In fact,
with the
Bukati,
same IEBC.
You can't.
I told you about this Indian friend of mine who was enjoying other Indians in the group. He wrote the word valve and told them, read it.
So how did he say it? I really want to know.
The valve. Because kina Ednah, it's the you said the B's and the P's. Kila kitu mkisia akisema atasema opposite.
Opposite?
Ukisema yeye anasema opposite.
Opposite.
Ukisikiliza namna hii unasikia opposite.
The Situation Room, Spice. The only way to start your day.
The sun is up in Nairobi at 15.
The weather with
going towards 18
SpiceFM.
actually. Highs of 26 and lows of 16 today. It's sunny at 18 in Nakuru with highs of 27, and at 15 Nyeri sunny with highs of 27. 26 will be the high in Eldoret, where it is sunny at 17. We're looking into a sunny Mombasa at 30 and a sunny Malindi at 30, going to highs of 33. Overcast and hazy in Kisumu this morning at 24 with highs of 30, while Kakamega will go to highs of 31, where it's currently 22 and hazy as well. Kampala is sunny at 22, Dar es Salaam partly sunny at 29, and we're looking into a rainy Johannesburg at 20, while at 29 Mogadishu is sunny. We'll see highs of 33. It's 15 and sunny in Addis Ababa with highs of 24, and Lagos at 25. Hamilton continues going to highs of 34, while Kinshasa is mostly sunny at 24 and will go to highs of 31.
SpiceFM.
Okay, so
Nyeri.
Friday morning is not too crazy. Langata Road was giving this morning, and then now we're seeing that seems to have disappeared really quickly, actually, as you get towards Huru Highway. Same thing also on Raila Odinga Way. Whatever we saw happening on Kangundo Road is also seeming to reduce quite some. A thicker superhighway coming off your service lanes and coming down that stretch after survey into the Pangani underpass will hold you for a while, but it should reduce in no time. Lower Kabete heading out towards Spring Valley and then through towards Westlands. There's a bit of a hold up here and there, but doable. Keeping an eye on things this morning, we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Conversation continues. It's really, really expensive to be poor in this country, and it means a lot to you. The other day, I think 2 years ago, we read a story in the news of a woman somewhere in Ruiru who was arrested and taken to police and had to spend some nights in police custody. She was arrested by local Kanjo because she had gone to dump garbage somewhere where local community dumps garbage. Arrested, taken to court. She was slapped with a substantial amount as cash bail. She could not raise that money, so she stayed in. She left her children alone. Over 60% of people in remand today are petty offenders, are those facing petty crime charges. And many of them are there because they've been given a bond or bail of a certain amount, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, and they cannot raise it.
They can't.
Even their families cannot contribute to raise enough to get them out. So they have to stay there to kitafuta pesa. Somebody stays for long. And this has a cost. Many of them are women who've left their children, and they're the sole breadwinners who are incarcerated because they just cannot afford to put in the cash bail to get out. The judiciary is working on that, working on the bail and bond system to make it easier for people to go home. But this is already a cost. If you're arrested in Nairobi, depending on who you are, you could end up in Muthaiga police station, or you can walk out and board a matatu and take a superhighway
and walk barefooted towards the college.
Or you could be taken to Kamukunji police station, where God help you if you're alive tomorrow morning. And these are stories that you hear all the time, all depending on whether you are poor or not. It's costly to be poor. You say the root cause of this thing, let's look at it. Governance, failed governance.
Yes.
Leadership, failed leadership. All of them enabled by quality of citizenship. Now explain that, please.
Let me tell you a small story. I've been to the police cells 19 times, as you would know, between 1996 and 2010.
Just visiting for a night.
Arrested for a night, we've been to committee, to industrial area, and a lot of these places.
The government gave you a scholarship.
I mean, 19 times I should have been given more than a scholarship. And one time, I was taken to, I think this must have been 2007, was arrested with Umtata and Mwalimu Mati, and this is when we were trying to stop Parliament from members of Parliament paying themselves gratuities. But the story I wanted to tell you, Eric, is this, that when I got to Modangari police station, this was the first time I was taken to Modangari. I'd been to Kamkunji and Mbakasi and a lot of these police stations here. When I got in, and because a lot of my colleagues from civil society, the National Human Rights Commission, lawyers, everybody came, Modangari was very hot for the police. So one of the things, when I got in, most of the people would recognize me. I got two cases that I will not take long in explaining. One of the cases was of a university graduate, a young man from Moranga, who had married. He was the firstborn. The parents had died. They are orphans, and he had married. He has two children. They were living in Kawangware. And what happened is that he was doing mujengo. There are these Indian companies that do a lot of construction, and they carry them in vehicles and drop them at the entrance to Kawangware, to Kangemi, to these places. So the police have actually developed a strategy with the transporters, not the Indian contractors, but the transporters, because the transport is done by somebody. So what happens is that on Friday evening is when these guys do the last day, and they are paid on Saturdays. They are paid on Saturdays. So for these guys not to pay for the work done during that week, they agree with the police to wait for them at the entrance of Kawangware. And when the lorry is offloading them, they arrest this young man. And put them, that's why this particular weekend they were at Modangari police station when I was arrested, and I went in there. And I asked them, how often does this happen? And I was told that it happens almost every week.
Every Friday.
And this is into Madare, this is into Kawangware, into Dandora. There are places where these people are dropped. And so that on Saturday morning, they are not there to pick their pay, because they work half day and then they pick their pay. So you get work done for you for the whole week, and on the day you are supposed to pay, you arrange for these guys to be arrested. And that's why 6 of them were at Modangari police station that particular weekend.
Wow.
I said, what kind of evil is that? And so, of course, I had to cause a huge ruckus, and a lot of them got out, because we had 113 people in that particular cell. The whole of that night, I could not sit. We had to sit and stand in turns, because there's no oxygen completely. So about 60 of you sit so that you can be able to breathe, because up here it's so hot, there's no oxygen. And then the women are there, the men are on this side, and we are only using one bucket, one toilet. At least it was a toilet there, but it's full, so we have to wash it, and the whole place is stinking. 113 people. That is what I found in that cell. And it is what is happening in most of the cells in this country.
Second case.
The cost of being poor. The second and last is that there was a Maragoli lady who fought with the husband, and it happened that in the fighting, she actually kicked the husband with the cooking pan, and the husband died. And so she was arrested, but she was never taken to court, nor was she taken to remand prison. So she had been staying at Modangari for 18 months until I got there.
Never been charged?
She had never been charged in a court of law. And what else? She had been impregnated 2 times and miscarried while she was at Modangari police station. For 18 months, she had been there. And then I discovered that there's something that happens I was being told at about 2 a.m. in the morning. Those ones who are brought in, women, most women are never booked. They are brought in, and once they are there, they are told, just go with those ones. They're taken to the police lines, and they are sexually exploited and released at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. That's why they are never booked. So the sex ring, free sex for releasing women who did not commit any crime in the first place. They were just waited for at the entrance as they're coming from work, as they're coming from where most of them are house helps and something like that. Let me tell you that the cost of poverty is beyond what we are discussing here this morning about cost of cooking oil and, access to health. It is the economic exploitation, the sexual exploitation that goes on. It is those women in Kisumu and in Siaya who have to give sex to be given fish to go and sell in the market. So the cost of poverty is deeper than it can actually be captured in words. That is why it is all about governance, failed governance and failed leadership because of the quality of citizenship. Why did I talk about the quality of citizenship? When citizens have never been given a basic education to understand, not education in school, because actually a lot of the people who go to university are illiterate, functionally illiterate, as we know. They cannot connect electing a corrupt person and going unemployed for 30 years. So the quality of citizenship really is what determines the quality of lives that people live in countries. And that includes the United States of America. When people wake up in the morning and elect people whose policies are going to cause homelessness. And America right now is suffering from 26 million people who are living under bridges.
Chokoras.
And they're living in parks. That's where they go to public parks and they bathe cold water at night. And that's why bodies are collected every morning of even whites. They call them, I think, they call them trash. They call them trash or scum. The whites.
They're essentially homeless people.
They're homeless, but there's something they call them, white something.
Derogatory term.
Very derogatory. 26 million Americans are homeless in the world's largest economy. The inequalities are shocking, but it is down to policies and to the leadership that we put in place. And it's about the quality of citizenship.
Are you saying that when we see all this hopelessness in terms of just the quality of life that many people are living, we look at ourselves as citizens?
We are our own worst enemies. We are our own worst enemies.
It is because of us that we find ourselves here?
Yes.
How so?
When Nairobi elects the kinds of governors it has been electing since 2013, I'm just giving an example. None of those men who have been elected to be governors has an iota of what governance is. None of our three governors.
Five.
There was
3 elected.
The 3 elected. There was another one acting and things like that. Those guys, they cannot pass any understanding of governance in any of my classes. In any of my class, they don't have an understanding of what governance is. And their work is to look for opportunities to sell drugs, to set up businesses, steal. It is an enterprise, and they are at the top of that enterprise. And it's an illegal enterprise. You've been seeing that the things that are being done. But what about at the national level? How do people believe that by putting corrupt people in government, those corrupt people will then now be transformed when they are in office, and they will now make good policies, they will not tax them, they will not kill their businesses, and they will create jobs? How do people believe that? It is because of religion, because of ethnicity, and because of corruption. Those are the 3 reasons why every country gets itself warped up criminals. There's an article actually which we teach with. It is called Why Psychopaths Rise to Power. it is a very important study because citizens have never connected the quality of lives they live and the kinds of people they put in place. They do not connect between the laws and policies that are made or the constitution that they have and the outcomes that are socioeconomic. So you look at Article 43, and I want us to look at Article 43 this morning because that's what we are discussing. You are saying that emergency health care is a right.
Yep.
But how many people in this country, including Papa Shirandra, died because they were denied emergency medical attention? It is every day that Kenyans are dying because they cannot afford basic money. The story you gave about these 7,000 shillings, 7,000 shillings in a Kenyan home in Kerugoya is money they don't earn in a month. Completely, they do not earn that kind of money in a month. And so when you demand for that kind of a deposit, you are saying you've written the death sentence for this patient who would have accessed basic care and lived. And that's what we are doing to ourselves because we have failed as citizens to understand that the kinds of choices we make have consequences in terms of the policies that will be made and the outcomes that will follow. That is why 8.3 million of us did not cast a ballot in the last election. Nigeria has 220 million people. Only 97 million registered to vote, but only 28 million turned out. And Tinubu was elected by only 8 million. So you have 8 million people electing for your president who is going to impact on all the 220 million of you. So where were the rest of you when Tinubu was becoming president?
They were sleeping.
You see what I'm talking about?
Cyprian, let me ask you something. Huh? If you look at the example you gave of the police, huh?
Yes,
and the barbaric things that we associate with them, which is a complete contradiction to what it is that they are employed to actually do. What happens to them? What happens to us? What is it that happens to us so that we are at a point where we subvert every moral status that we are probably brought up with, that we get to a point where we have what some people refer as moral insolvency. We actually are at a place where
bankruptcy.
You can't get any worse.
Yes, because is it that we have been conditioned through suffering, unfairness? We've endured so much that our own moral compass is completely twisted.
It is the education system. It's the education system that we inherited and which we have refused to change. And the government knows why it cannot change the education system. The education system is what gives you what we call ask, the attitudes, the skills, the knowledge. Every country gives its people, that's what we call formation of citizenship. You take people to an education system so that they can be able to get the certain attitudes, certain skills, and a certain type of knowledge. So because I don't want these people to be critical about governance and about leadership, Njoya wrote an article in 1977, Reverend Dr. Timothy Njoya, and he was talking about how people are zombified. And he was talking about the Kikuyu of Kenya. The zombification of the Kikuyu through Harambes. Harambes is probably the most powerful tool that is used to zombify people. Whether you go to Nigeria or Kenya or everywhere.
How so?
You see, when I come to your church and I have 1 million shillings, all right, but everybody in the church has been struggling to raise 10,000, 1,000, 2,000. People don't have money. And then I come and I, place 1 million shillings in the bishop or in the pastor's hands for building your church. I immediately become a savior and somebody who's good-hearted.
Yeah.
But then I don't ask the question of why is everybody in this place unable to raise what they need to build their church.
Yeah.
So you actually desensitize people, and that is Harambee is how corruption, ethnic mobilization, or tribalism, as we call it, and religion is used to reinforce the system that is in place. Because people then don't question anything about how they reached this level of servitude, of debauchery, of conditions of exclusion and poverty. So that is why in Latin America, for example, the Catholic Church there raised what we call liberation theology, because governments in those countries wanted the church to only donate foodstuff and blankets and water and whatever it is. Then a certain bishop asked, but why is it every time when I raise questions about corruption and about bad policies, you say you've now come to politics? But when I'm raising foodstuffs and healthcare and whatever, I'm a good person.
The work of the Lord.
So you have to see that education really is what zombifies people. People who have graduate degrees but cannot be able to understand the connection between the insecurity in their estate and the choice of leaders plus the policies that are in place. Eric, you and I know that the cost of traffic fines is very high, but we never question that. And we know that is the source of corruption. You put a policy in place and say, if you are using the side track, or is it's 10,000 shillings. So that you say, why don't I give you 1,000 shillings and you go. That's how corruption is structured. It is about the policies that are in place.
We'll continue this conversation in the next hour, and we'll open the phone lines so we can now discuss the solution. It's really costly to be poor in this country, as has been demonstrated by very, very many incidences. Cyprian Nyamwamu is a civil society activist, he's a rights defender, he's the director of Future of Kenya Foundation, he's a thinker, he's here, he's our guest. We'll ask him, so what's the solution? Keep it here, it's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Former TV news anchor Jackie Maribe and Joseph Irungu will anytime from now know their fate in the Monica Kimani murder case. Judge Grace Nzioka had earlier stated that she would be giving the judgment on the 15th of March. Court officials stated that all the parties agreed for the judgment to be delivered today. Maribe and Irungu, who are the main suspects in the case, will thus know whether they were found guilty or not. The ruling was initially set to be delivered last month but was postponed after Maribe failed to appear in court, citing illness. Kimani's murder case has dragged in court since 2018, with Maribe and Joey lined up as the main suspects. Now, National Assembly Minority Leader Opiyo Ndai wants the implementation of the report of the Presidential Working Party on Education halted to await approval by Parliament. Ndai argues that they have noticed that the report is already being implemented, yet it had not passed through the National Assembly. The lawmaker therefore says for the report to see the light of the day, it must pass through both houses of Parliament so that it is approved or rejected before the government can think of what to do with it. Ndai, who spoke at Ugunja Technical and Vocational College in his Ugunja constituency, observed that some of the recommendations by the Education Task Force would entail amendment of the Constitution, which he says cannot happen without approval of the Houses of Parliament. Meanwhile, parents in Makueni County have rejected the order by the government that requires them to pay school fees through the e-Citizen platform. Led by Kaiti MP Joshua Kimilu, he says that the order failed to consider the fact that some parents pay fees through goods and services.
Capitation ile inapatiana na ministry kuja shuleni inachelewa. Sembuze pesa ambayo inatolewa na e-citizen kuja shuleni. Sasa hapo ndio ufisadi itakidhiri mizizi. Hiyo tumekataa kama wakazi wa Kenya na wakazi wa Makueni.
And parents have blamed the government for constantly implementing laws without considering their input in maintaining that public participation has been enshrined in law and therefore they must be consulted when such decisions are made.
Mimi niko na watoto niliwasomeshia hapa nikisaidiwa na CDM na nikisaidiwa na kuni na nikisaidiwa na kukoroga hii sabuni. Sasa hii citizen mimi naona inatesa wananchi na serikali ulituahidi ni bottom up. Hapa natafuta bottom up mheshimiwa Rais Ruto. Natafuta bottom up inanipotelea. Kwa hivyo naomba mheshimiwa hii mambo ya hii citizen sijui itaenda kwa dunia gani haitafanya kazi kwa hii dunia ya Kenya.
Yule alileta hayo mawazo ama hiyo decision ya kulipa karo na e-citizen ni mtu ambaye apendi wazazi wa Kenya na wazazi wa Makueni kwa jumla. Kwa sababu unapata ya kwamba wazazi wengi katika hii hali ngumu ya uchumi hata wanaweza lipa karo kwa njia ya kupatiana vitu kama mafuno ya mashamba ama kuni ama pia waende huko shuleni wakafanye kazi huko.
This event comes as a court order stops the move, but President William Ruto has maintained that it will be implemented in order to deal with cartels in the education sector. But now Nairobi woman rep Esther Passaris has started public debate after insinuating that she will sponsor a motion to get rid of school uniforms in the country. Speaking after buying school uniforms for students she is sponsored to join high schools, Passaris said that school uniforms are expensive for students from poor backgrounds. She said that there is no harm in students going to school without uniforms, insisting that school uniforms is a creation of the colonial master.
So I'm giving you 2 students, okay? 30,000 per student. I'm going to actually do something. I'm going to ban school uniforms in Kenya. I'm going to stop school uniforms in Kenya. These children cannot afford school uniforms. Europe, this is a colonial mentality for us to wear uniform. They go to school with their home clothes, they just buy sporting gear. You go into fashion. We won't keep you out of business. A tailor is a tailor, you'll make whatever. But this is crazy. How does any child in the slum afford 30,000 shillings for uniform? It's impossible. Greece banned uniforms. American schools don't wear uniforms. Some schools in London don't wear uniforms. France don't wear uniforms. And the students study. So they go to school with your home clothes. I mean, I'm sorry that I'm saying this in a school shop, but 30,000 is just ridiculous.
And in the United States, 4 summer high school students were hospitalized for taking what was described by the St. Louis Fire Department as an edible origami, possibly containing THC, according to the St. Louis Public School District. The school district said the students were hospitalized for precautionary reasons after complaining of nausea. 6 other students with the same symptoms were evaluated and released to their parents. The district believes a student snuck the items into the school after purchasing them at a nearby convenience store. I'm Dennis Aseta. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so still heavy on the thicker superhighway. You're coming in from Survey out towards the CBD. I think we're going to deal with that for some time as you get through that single lane movement. Apart from that, actually, we're not seeing much traffic in other parts of the city this morning. It all seems to have dissipated for now. We'll probably see a pickup of it later, but for now, it looks pretty good. You'll be able to get where you're going without any hold-ups. Not really, at least. Just in case anything does pop off, let us know before we come to the end of traffic hour. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag #TheSituationRoom.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to
the studio like this.
Because it's the month of love, and love is in the air. Can't you feel it? Do you feel loved right about now?
Always.
Fantastic. Now you can.
Or did you change?
No.
Okay. I still feel it.
You feel it? Well done. Now, you can feel it even more. The Elegance in Love cocktail dinner is taking place on the 14th of February, nonetheless. And it's at Sarich Your City. It's at 6 p.m. So we are answering that question. How will I know if you love me? Take them to the Elegance in Love cocktail dinner that's taking place on that day from 6 p.m. Buy your tickets, whether you're going, well, now in this case, you're not going alone, Abby. But just in case you are going alone, you want to experience what this loving thing is all about, 3,000 shillings. If you're with your somebody, 5,500 shillings. If you're with your somebody and now it is elevated to
and
VIP
they are
status,
VIP.
and they are VIP, 10,000 shillings. Go to ticketsasa.com, purchase your tickets. Wahoo and Nameless will be crooning the best of the love ballads that night, and you can enjoy live performances and other spicy music, and the food is going to be just as good, if not better. So, a fantastic meal, great drinks, you walk away with a gift, and if you're a VIP couple, you get to enjoy a bottle of bubbly on your table.
Very good. City, who is the financial sponsor of the Africa Cup of Nations this year?
Well, it is a very well-known bank on the continent. They have done wonderful things. And they keep doing wonderful things. And in case you're wondering, they have 35 branches across this continent, which has 54 countries. And the name is even more fascinating because I often wondered, but it resonates with the times we live in. EcoBank. Yes. Eco.
So what do you think it means?
EcoBank, Eco.
I haven't given it thought. I just like it could mean many things. That's the beauty of the word eco. Ecology, economy, ecosystem.
Those three particularly.
Yes, but it is a bank that resonates with the continent.
Right.
It's a continental bank.
It's a Pan-African
that has international reach.
Very good.
Yes.
Please give Cyprian the day's proverb again, and let's hear his interpretation of that proverb. Again.
Where the rooster crows, there is a village.
Where the rooster crows, there is a village.
A village, I want to liken it with a country. And the rooster is what is domesticated and taken care of so that it can be able to respond and help people in that particular area. And there's a component of time. And I want to associate the rooster with a champion. Every country, every family, every community has its champions who raise an alarm, raise information, like media houses do in this country, for everybody to know that this is what's happening and this is what we need to do at this particular time.
Good one. A good one.
It is a wonderful one.
You guy. Cyprian, we're still talking about the cost of poverty in this country. You've talked about quality of leadership. You've shown us, all right. So as we look at what we see as the fruits, those fruits have a stem and that tree has roots. At the root of this whole issue is governance and leadership. Governance, you said, three things: religion, corruption, ethnicity, that then just spoils its entire governance structure. And with that, it's
the
about
outcomes.
The outcomes are what we see.
Yes.
The people who are poor are just the downtrodden.
So, I mean, and because now, look, I think there is a lot of value, and I just want to make this point because we do have a lot of people who are listening and commenting on socials and talking about why do we complain. And I think that in as much as complaining sometimes may seem as a useless activity, I think it is necessary to highlight the issues.
Yes.
Because if you do not, we do not comprehend fully the weight. If we do not hear some of the stories of things that are actually going on, it doesn't dawn on us just how serious the situation is. And we keep saying that the most vulnerable, the person who is living, existing in such a terrible space, is the true face of your nation. That you cannot be on this side where people are existing in affluence. And like in my country, for example, you have people who are living in some dilapidated one room, standing on stilts. It's ridiculous. And then we want to say that this is the face of the nation. It is not true.
It is not.
So I wanted to say that I think it is necessary for us to highlight some of these things so we get the true picture of what we are talking about. Why? I want us to see how we can make the link then, so that we can understand, Cyprian. When we talk about these horrible, horrible things, truly the cost of being poor, the cost of lacking, the cost of not having, connect that to the solution where we've said that. See the link between the people that you put in positions of leadership and governance who will institute policies to turn over these things that we are talking about. The link between the two, I think, is what we need to then be able to connect.
Because it's what is missing.
Yeah.
You're completely right. Let me. As I answer that, I want to say that there are four things. Sociology, we say that there are four things that tell you about a country. And I'll just list them very quickly. If you want to know about a country, you look at its central bus station. That's the first thing you look at. The second thing you look at is the ruling party headquarters. The third thing that you look at is the national, whatever game that is popular in that country, the national team and how it is cared for and how it's performing. And the last is hospitals for that country, the public hospitals, and the kind of treatment that goes on there. Those are the four things that you do. So if you land in Rwanda and you go to the central bus station, it tells you the story of that country. That is the story of the workers of that country. If you go to the political party headquarters of the ruling party of that country, that tells you about the institutions of that country. If you go to the hospital, it tells you about how women are valued, because women are the ones who use hospitals most to give birth, to take sick children, to take care of relatives, and they are the users of hospitals. And that has never been understood very well. And finally, the national team and how it is performing and being taken care of tells you about how the youth are valued and how talent is valued. So you'll see that the national team of a country like ours, they don't even get paid their basic allowance. That tells you everything you need to know about the youth and talent. Zero. If you go to the central bus station here in Kenya, you will see that is how workers, that's the general attitude towards workers. Right? No toilets, no shelter when it's raining or when it is sunny. You will see that the dignity of the travelers is not respected and the chaos that you see there. Those are four things that you use in social sciences to check what the state of that country looks like. If you go to Europe...
So we don't have structures in this country because does the ruling party have a headquarters?
Yes.
There is. But to go there, it is only the person you find there are the people who are useless. Kiraitu Murungi said that political parties are matatus.
It's true now.
That's how we look at every institution, point A to B. But that's how we look at every institution, including the judiciary, including parliament. Every institution is a matatu for you to use where you need it and forget about it. So I wanted to say that because it's important for people to understand that every country can very quickly be understood. When I go to Europe, countries like Germany, I don't use a private car until I come back because the public transport system is excellent and it is dignified.
It functions well.
It functions well. It works. And so that is how you know that this is a country which values the working people. And so on and so forth. We don't need to give too many examples because Ndu wants us to focus on how do we get the connection between the masses who are actually the cause of their own problems. Kenyans are responsible for where we are today because we don't ask the basic questions of who are we putting in office. So we look at the intervening forces that we say that are the stem of the problem. This is a Muslim like me, a Christian like me, is born again like me, or something like that. Then you ask, but what about the corruption? Everybody's corrupt, all right? And then we ask, what about this ethnicity thing? I've been working with the farmers in Rift Valley. They say that the only time farmers in this country have ever earned what is due to them is when Kibaki was president, which tells you that somebody doesn't have to come from your ethnic community for them to make good policy. All right? Good policy is just good policy. So you need to ask yourself, does this person, man or woman, really understand what good policy is? That is why we interview them during election period. But people become emotional, they get attached to their ethnicities, their religion, and then they accept corruption. Money comes, very easy money, a lot of it which comes from, as you know, crime and corruption. And that is what we accept and exchange for good policies and employment and 5 years of prosperity. We auction it at the election. So the quality of citizenship is very important. How do we deal with that? I have to blame civil society and the religion in this country because we brought this country from a failed state by only two forces, the religious community and the civil society in Kenya. We established what we called the National Civic Education Program. We divided the country 78 districts that time. We didn't have counties. And everybody was given their district. So in every district, there was a civil society organization, and then there was a church committee of pastors and imams and all that. And we conducted civic education across the country. And the people came to understand that governance is what determines outcomes. It's not your ethnic community. It is the policy that is in place, is the laws that have been put in place. Apart from citizenship, is about leadership. If we are going to put people in place and we want to our lives to change, then we must put in place competent people who can actually make good policy and who can be able to enforce it and who can be able to use resources without these resources being stolen.
You've said you blame the civil society. And
I blame the civil society.
But they're the ones who came up with the civic education program.
Yes.
And you started rolling it out.
Yes.
So why do you blame them?
That ended with the Kibaki coming to power. So we have not engaged citizens for at least the last 20 years since Kibaki came to power. The engagement, but there are a few organizations who are doing this and that, Uraya and a few others. But it is a crying. It's a drop in the ocean. You need structured civic education that runs through the 5 years, not during election time. Because at election time, what we normally give people is what we call voter education.
Yeah.
What's the color of the ballot for women reps? It is pink. That's voter education. That's not civic education. Civic education, which should be expanded to become political education, is the education which gives people the correct attitudes, skills and understanding of how the world works. But I've seen in this country where the president is even building. Today I've kept away from mentioning names. But you and I know that you can't build on public land and sell to private owners. You don't need a degree in law. You don't need to be a professor. The houses that were built in Kaloleni and in Makongeni and in Shaurimoyo and in all these places
are still public
on government land, you can't sell them. You cannot sell them. So when the president stands on top of vehicles and tells people that he is going to build houses and sell, he knows he's lying. And I don't know why Kenyans are allowing him to do that. The second thing that I have to say about leadership is that we all know that housing is a devolved function. Right now, I'm getting calls at the office from all over the country that this KRA militia, they call them marshals, are harassing them in their farms. They are counting the animals. The national government, under the constitution, is not allowed to charge cess. The national government cannot collect cess.
The county government.
It's only the county government can do. So why are we even having these conversations in this country?
In the first place.
It is not supposed to be going on, all right? So the citizens of this country should get a bit serious.
So civic education
is what tells people what the county government functions are, what the national government functions are.
But
that
so
you cannot build on land. It is the job of the state. But in a country where, since independence, we've had governments where, and let me say this because people do not know it. In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. 90% of the GDP. It's controlled by 8,000 people.
6 families.
6 families and 8,000 people. They control 90%. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We live in people's... we are not a country. We are a plantation. We are not worse. We are not better off than what used to exist in the medieval times when there was slavery and... because we work for Ruto. We work for these 8,000 guys.
6 families.
That's why they can afford to buy houses in Dubai at the cost of 210 million, 207 million. That's why Ruto's ministers can import edible oil and evade and the country loses 11 billion shillings like that. This is why a government minister writes and says, I want 17 billion to buy to pay oil subsidy. And that money is withdrawn from the consolidated fund, which is criminal and illegal, which is treason, and it's happening.
So this is interesting that you say this, Cyprian, because you also then talk about civic education being the responsibility of the state, because this is for me direct in terms of solutions.
Yes.
That number one, if we had a citizenry who knew some of the things that you're talking about today, the likelihood of somebody in a position of leadership or governance coming to you to tell you something which you know is a fundamental untruth. I say untruth to make it maybe sound a little bit more, is a fundamental untruth. Mm-hmm. The likelihood that citizens would listen to and accept that then is reduced significantly.
Completely.
The reason why in jurisdictions where the state has taken up their role of civic education, they then also realize that there are very many things that they cannot do because they know they are dealing with an informed citizenry.
Completely.
So when you take your position of information seriously, when you take your responsibility of sharing that information seriously, then essentially we will see a reduction of this gross violations that we see happening today.
Completely. And you will reduce the number of wash and scams that go to parliament. The reason the president can order, Eric, the president can order and tell parliament, if you don't pass that finance bill, mutaniona, is because he knows from the intelligence that 80% of those guys have cases and criminal records And if they do not give him his bill, he is going to just order a lot of them to be rounded around.
Unleash files.
And you'll unleash files. So if you do not elect men and women of credibility to these houses, those institutions will not function. So civic education, political education is very fundamental to changing the quality of citizenship. Because once you change the quality of citizenship, you change the quality of leadership, the quality of policies, the quality of programs, and corruption vanishes. And then the country flourishes. The country just flourishes. So it's not complex at all, but we have to do a correct analysis in the problem tree to understand where to the citizens. So the citizens are the main in the middle, and we call them the stem. They are the ones holding the country together. What they do in the middle, in terms of this corruption, in terms of this ukabila, tribalism, and in terms of this problem of religion. Religion is a problem in this country.
You have a problem with religion?
I don't have a problem with religion, but the kind of religion that is practiced in this country. All right? Even in Germany, during the Hitler Nazi time, we know that there were nearly 18,000 churches. Only 3,000 churches said we can't allow this kind of persecution and killing of people simply because they are Jew. Because they knew that once the Jews have been dealt with,
they'll be next.
They will be next. So they stood up and said, no, gentlemen, we don't have a problem with your politics and everything else, but we do not agree with this Nazi ideology. So what have we done in this country? And we can't do it. We know we can't do it because of the quality of citizens that we have. So that is where we have to start. And it's very easy. It's doable. We have done it before. And we must defend this constitution. And you are going to see some of us. I wasn't supposed to disclose some of these things here, but because you called me, I think the president needs to know that Kenyans are done with him. Completely.
Done with him?
Completely.
What do you mean?
He cannot dictate us. The president cannot dictate us. The Constitution in Chapter 6 says, authority given to a state officer is to serve, not to rule. That's a constitutional provision in Article 75 of the Constitution. You are given authority to serve, not to rule. The president...
And the giver of that authority.
Yes, the giver of the authority is citizens. So when you read Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3 of the Constitution, Article 1 says the people are sovereign, the citizens are sovereign. Article 2 says we donate power. Article 3 says it's our responsibility to defend the Constitution. There are more than 26 violations that the president has already done. Why is the president doing these things with impunity? Because he knows that the parliament will not impeach him. So, because parliament is not going to do this, we are now going to the Constitution to look at Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. In Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3 has given us what we can do to remove a president who has violated the Constitution. Those are the steps we are now going to take so that the president comes back to respecting the Constitution, which put him in office. 26 violations are many. Even one is enough. 26 are too many. That a president can violate the Constitution at will without being checked by anybody.
26 in 18 months.
In 18 months, 16 months.
In 16.
In 16 months.
26 violations.
26 violations.
How many more to go?
So I don't know how you can live with a president like that for all these years. So we have to come to a place where we ask ourselves, what's the meaning of the responsibility given to citizens in Article 3 to defend the Constitution? So we are going to defend the Constitution.
What? Let's take a break.
Yes, we have to defend it.
Cyprian Nyamuamu is our guest this morning. We want to open up the phone lines after this break, 0719-012-600, okay? We have a responsibility as citizens. We also are the ones who, as Cyprian is saying, we are the stem. And if we are the stem, the quality of citizenship matters. Do you agree with Cyprian when he says all these things that we are seeing in the country are due to the quality of citizenship that we have in this country? And what is the remedy for that? How do we remedy it? If you agree, tell us how we remedy it. If you don't agree, tell us then what's the problem. Okay? We'll be back shortly. Good morning. We call this the what break? It's the Carrington break. Why? Because we say own your richness. Ebu tell Cyprian why we are owning our richness.
So you can imagine what comes from the earth, right? At this spring where this water flows naturally. And all those natural minerals that you find essentially that contribute to the wealth of health as you drink it. So that's the richness that comes from the ground. And that's the richness that you have every time you have a bottle of Carrington. So here you are, you're saying you can have a drink of this water, but essentially what you're doing is owning that which comes from the Kenyan earth.
Own your richness.
Own your richness.
Wow. Ednah, ongezea Cyprian maji.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. You know, that's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
So who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk that midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, so traffic hour actually comes to an end early today. Not much going on here. Just a little bit left on the Thika Superhighway, but that in no time will disappear. It's Friday. After all, we've seen that trend. Most Fridays by this time, traffic not an issue. Keeping an eye on things through the day, however, will you talk to us on SpiceFM, KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Conversation 0719-012-600. Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. Quality of citizenship. That is what Cyprian Nyamuamu is saying. That is the root cause of the problem. That leads to bad governance. Bad governance and bad leadership lead to what we see as the fruits of this, where things are just not working. Mohammed from Mwakijembe in Kwale County. Salamu alaikum.
Yes, wa alaikum salamu wangwana.
Siko safi kabisa. Je, wewe?
Mimi nashukuru, mimi nawatakia mwaka mpya wenye fanaka.
Na pia sisi tunakutakia the same.
Na mimi nashukuru sana wangwana hapo studio. You are looking for a solution. I've been giving you the solution, but you don't want it. I'll keep on repeating mpaka munichukie.
Values.
The only thing is character na virtue. Or in other words, moral value. You know, we can instill and inculcate education, knowledge, professional skills from early childhood. Mpaka hata akimaliza university amekuwa ameiva. Kwani hatuwezi, can't we inculcate good moral values, good characters, good virtues? Ili generation ijayo, or the next or the second generation, takuwa mambo imetengezeka. Wajua, the big issue is dishonesty, greed. Shona, hiyo ndio inafanya matatizo yote tunapata kwa hii dunia. Si Kenya peke yake, hata ulimwengu mzima.
So sasa acha nikuulize Mohamed. How do we get back now into inculcating those good moral values?
They are very well done celibacy, which has been performed or being used in other countries. We can borrow a leaf from them, how they did it.
Okay.
And ukiangalia hizo countries wako mbele sana kwa sababu wako na virtue. Lakini Kenya tumepungukiwa hiyo, tunafundisha maths, English, sijui nini, kuna hapa Mwakijembe hata hiyo English ni shida, wanaletewa na study kama ya France, French. Hata mimi nashangaa. They don't even understand English properly. You unaletea French. Hata mimi nacheka. We have our priorities wrong, boss.
Safi kabisa.
Lakini ya virtues na moral values
hakuna.
They are country. It's there. It's not rocket science. Hiyo kitu ndio tutaweza kuweka msingi, na hatuwezi kunywa nini Nescafe instant uweke maji. Lakini ukitaka kupika githeri mzee, uweke maji moto kwa maharage na mahindi, uweze kula githeri. Kuna process.
Lazima uchemshe.
Chemsha masaa mawili matatu.
Basi.
Lakini instant coffee just second. Unapata kikombe chako cha kahawa. Sio hivyo. Kuna kila kitu ina process yake, inategemea. Lakini virtues it will take long. Kama vile mnasubiria kupata lawyers na doctors na engineers from nursery mnawafundisha. Na hiyo virtues pia tunaanza kuanzia hapo. By the time wakifika mrio fulani, tutakuta mtu kwa upright. Mimi nashukuru sana.
Thank you, Mohammed. Have a good day.
Have a nice day.
You too. Moses.
Jambo.
Good morning. In which part of the plantation are you this morning?
I'm coming from Nairobi.
Aha, karibu sana.
Well, my comment is I love the conversation. I love how you guys are analyzing issues. Personally, I believe in solutions. Now, if we talk of corruption, can we talk of punishing people? That is a solution. We don't need much philosophies. However, I wanted to be... there is something Muga said, Cyprian said about issues at Mudangari police station. That there is a woman...
System is frozen. Sorry. System is frozen. Moses, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
You can hear me?
Sorry, we lost you for a bit.
Oh, I was saying...
The issue at Mudangari police station.
Yeah. He said about a woman who has been there for 8 months.
Yep.
In Kenya, we have various institutions which are allowed by law to investigate such.
Yep.
Why can't he probably go to the correct offices? We have IPO, we have human rights. We have even the OCPD's office. Go and report that this madness I witnessed in your police station, where a person has been there for 18 months without being taken to court, and even probably being sexually violated, as he has said. Yeah, that was my opinion.
Thank you. Cyprian, what did you do?
The chair of the National Commission on Human Rights, Maina Kiai, was outside, so they took up the case immediately, and people lost jobs. It is part of how we came to insert IPOA inside our laws and the Constitution, because we needed to decouple the police. So he's right. Those are the steps we took. Things can improve if institutions work, but the institutions are getting worse because of political interference.
Okay. Kim.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you think? Quality of citizenship?
Well, I fully agree with him. The fact that civic education has fallen so far that people don't know the choices they're making have consequences is a problem. So I just wanted to lend my voice to his, that is something we should look towards, to educating young people that the choices they make have consequences to their future.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Kevin in Ahero, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I love the conversation so much, and I would like to encourage people like Cyprian to come out. He's speaking to the soul of the nation. We have lost a lot as a society, and as a young man, I'm a bit worried, especially with the plantation ideology. I'm even worried which plantation am I in. And then lastly, I would want to say he's a bit too hard on the religious society. They have really tried. I come from church. I grew up in church. We are really trying. The problem is that the people who make a lot of decisions are the ones who have money, and the money that they have, you can't question. So if we have to follow people, let's follow the money.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Mwenye.
Good morning.
Voa matuko.
Salama sana.
How's Tala?
Tala is another plantation.
Okay.
Now, Cyprian Nyamwamu, I have a report I have done about corruption in schools. There is a classroom, two classrooms, JSSs. They're a disaster waiting to happen through corruption. Everything to do with that school is absolute theft because the head teacher has corrupted his way up to the highest levels, I think, of education ministry. He is untouchable. Right now, he's trying to grab my land. I have done a letter to that effect, which I would like to share with you. Ndu,
yes.
You said the authorities are aware of it. They just don't bother. True. Yes, because it is a cartel. It is, what do you call this? A big empire of thieves.
It's a criminal enterprise.
It's a criminal enterprise.
Criminal enterprise. And because it's an enterprise, some of the people who deal at the bottom, at the grassroots, are untouchable, like this head teacher here. Can you imagine the levies on poor people who come borrowing from me to pay for things called fence levy? So many levies, of course, they're the stuff. He's just bought himself a new car. I have done all that. Yes, I have enumerated everything he's done because there are people, these parents who come borrowing money from me to feed his avarice. Tell me what happens there. The other day, I think yesterday, the day before yesterday, he was beaten up by a lady, a parent, in that school.
Why?
I haven't been told because I was told the story yesterday, but he had refused with her money. This man is a money maniac. Please allow me, Eric, to send you a copy of that report I did, which I sent to Transparency International, but I didn't have your contact. And then the tragedy is the media, sorry to say, don't want to cover some of these ills. I have talked to some media, powerful ones, they don't want to come because there is no child for them. Please, can Spice take up this issue? I'll send you the report with your permission, please. I would like to send you these. And Nyamwamu, I'd like to talk to you also about other evils, and especially the church. That's the biggest criminal enterprise in this country. They have also grabbed our land.
We have your number. We will get in touch through Ednah.
Please do as soon as possible, because I hope also my life is not in danger because I have informed the OCS in Tala that I could be attacked.
Hi, follow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, let me send you the report.
We'll appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Asante.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead.
You too, Mweni. Sami. Zima redio kaka. Sasa huyu Sami huyo kwa mchezo. John, how are you?
How are you, Eric?
Salama kabisa. Soba?
Yeah, this is John from Kajiado. Just want to weigh in on your conversation, and thank you guys.
Asante.
Yes, and I would like to zero in on education. You know, this education system of ours, I think the president is in the right direction. And looking at it holistically, this money is to be paid through that paid bill number. I don't think even you will have sorted the issue because the ed teachers are very smart. Most of this, like tuition money, what is levied at the secondary school, primary school, these monies don't go through those main accounts. In fact, you are asked to send to the specific class teachers. So you see, they are very smart. And I think this era of thieves needs to come to an end. I think that's all you need to share.
Thank you.
Let them pursue these things. Let them go hang. We are tired as Kenyans.
We hear you. Thank you, John. Kerry in Kileleshwa, hello.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Morning to you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I think I like what Cyprian has shared with us throughout the morning, but as a country, the moment we failed to nail Chapter 6, and especially members of Parliament, who were tasked with the responsibility of generating, enabling legislation to implement Chapter 6 and Article 10 of the Constitution. That is where we got it wrong as a country. Because if you go to, if that's the standards, the real standards of Article 10 and Chapter 6 of this Constitution are placed against the current leadership, none would be in public office. Then we get to the problem where, because people without integrity have occupied the highest places in managing affairs of this state, our country is going down every day. Yesterday was the worst day in terms of appointing anyone into public office, where this we've seen a collapse of a very critical case. And this should be a lesson to Kenyans, because if a person comes from your home area, a politician from your own area can sabotage a program that is meant to help you people. Your own program that was supposed to, because a dam is a very critical infrastructure in those parts of the world. They come from those parts of the world, they sabotage the program. The Auditor General's report is very, very clear, and everybody can see. It pointed out towels were supplied and bed sheets. An Italian company that was supposed to construct those dams supplied towels and bed sheets to a certain hotel belonging to a certain person. The auditor was very clear, and the person was named, and nothing has happened. Then we see the cases, and even the collapse of the case. The judge was, you hear the tone of that judge, and you see frustration and pain in the heart of that judicial officer. And you feel even sorry. Instead of feeling sorry for your country, you feel sorry even for the judge himself, because the withdrawal really hurt that judge. And we are withdrawing a case that would have sent shockwaves into the civil public service and made people responsible. But that is what it is. So do we just keep quiet as citizens? What do we do? Cyprian says we apply Article 1 and the other articles that but again, you remember that we are a tribal society. These guys will run to their communities to cry there. Their communities, because of lack of free education, will not understand that you are doing this for their own good. They will think you are finishing their person.
The three issues that he talked about.
What I have to say this morning. Yes, thank you very much.
Asante, Kerry. Tony, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you, Latiff?
Very well. Where are you this morning?
I'm in Kilifi in a plantation.
Okay.
I'm staring at the site of plantation. Anyway, I am very happy with Cyprian because of articulating some of these issues which really we have been observing, and we feel I think majority of Kenyans agree completely. We only have but only one problem. You know, okay, I don't have any problem with religion. I'm also a staunch Christian and all that. But it is true what is said about religion. But there is one thing in the Bible, Jesus said, he without sin cast the first stone. So if we are going to choose these people in leadership position, that parliament, that senate, all of them have their own issues. So if somebody can take advantage of that, you see, we are all we find ourselves in this situation.
And issues, yes.
That notwithstanding, my issue is one. I'm a civil servant. Now there are these forms we fill which are called
wealth declaration.
Yes. Now they have added a portion where you put your better half. And you have to also say how much she earns, and and all the details about your spouse.
The wealth of your spouse.
Yes, the wealth of your spouse, where she works, and her work number, all those things. Is it that constitution? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. These articles we hear them, and some
Tony,
some people always quote.
Do you think that's a
articles.
violation?
I think so. Why should I go and find out? I don't even know how much my wife earns, and it's none of my business. I think it's private business,
Many arguments on that. We'll hear Cyprian's take on it. Thank you very much, Tony. Enjoy the Kilifi plantation.
Thank you, Hassan.
Moha.
Yep.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
What do you think? Is it quality of citizenship?
There's something that has been happening for a while. The people who we used to look up as elders, who we used to know as elders back then.
Yeah.
Right now, what we have are elders, but with their own personal interest. I'm sure some time back, and this is not an elder I'm mentioning, this is just a simple person, and it's an example I want to draw from it, from mentioning this person. Remember sometime Jalango went to Parliament, to State House for development. Now we have the current day elders who've gone for State House for something similar, for their own kind of development. Similar to that of Jalango in one way or another. Now imagine having a conversation trying to show a fellow citizen that a policy that is being implemented is not being implemented for your right, while the same citizen has an elder that they look up to who went to Parliament and has come and sold them this idea that this policy is meant for you. This is why it's being forced down your throat. This is why someone has rushed to court. This is why someone at the executive is blowing a gasket, because it's good for you. This is why they have to buy media time to tell you why this thing is good for you. You do not know it's good. It has to be forced down your throat for you to know it's good. Do you know how an uphill task that is? To convince this person who one of the mzes or the church guys or the mosque guys has gone to Parliament and has gone to okay this stuff. So now we want to have a conversation with this person and tell them this thing is wrong. We're going to suffer. We're going to be in problems.
So is the problem the elder or the problem the recipient of the information?
There's part of this system that has been how should I put it? That has been messed up in one way or another. The order has been distorted. Back then, I used to remember when I was very young, my mzee would visit some old man somewhere, and when he's talking, though I was that young, I'm like marveling at the words coming out of this mzee's mouth, who my dad is listening to. But right now, I'm looking to find those kind of wazes. All I see are people with personal interest. They have gone to State House for development. Right. They go take pictures. When they come back to their community, they're coming to earn their keep, their pay.
True. So
the development that they went to get in State House.
Thank you, Moha.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Read a couple of comments on our social media, and then we hear Cyprian's take on.
Well, I mean, there's quite some. In years to come, we shall have a semblance of great leaders, says David Ololwatch. The leaders we have now are all products of Kenya post-independence. The more advanced in age, the worse they are due to mind rigidity, is what he says. If the Kenyan constitution was being used accordingly, or even 90%, we would be very far. But what we have as leaders in the political or business field are mostly hyenas. Me and my people first, is what it is. All public property is taxpayers' property. We will not pay for other people to acquire assets at our expense. Well, according to Cyprian, that has already happened today. And just looking at... there's a lot of banter here. The tribe is another stupid identity that we as Kenyans are blindly supporting to our own detriment. Why can't we have this civic education begin in media spaces? Because government for sure won't support it, because that's their bread.
That's what we are doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's quite a lot, but look at that. There seems to be an agreement that we're in a bit of a tight spot here. But the answers are looking at us in the face.
Yeah, they are right here. That we are responsible for our lives. And I agree with the gentleman who began us off by saying that values and character is at the core. Is at the core. But where does that come from? It comes from the kind of leadership you have in place. The value system in this country is determined, like everywhere else, about the reward system. In short, in Kenya, the people who do good are punished. The people who do bad are rewarded. Because of that, that is why people have stopped doing good to do bad so that they can be rewarded. Because even the kinds of people who are being appointed daily are those who have done bad. Those who have done good will never be appointed. So in fact, it's a badge. When you see somebody being appointed, you almost certainly know that
they've done something
wrong.
That
somebody who has done something very bad against the state, against the people of Kenya. And the solutions are out here. We have to rise up. We have to organize. In Pan-Africanism, we say, stop agonizing and start organizing. That's why we have formed, alliances like Kenya Bora Tutakayo. We don't want to just sit and complain. We know there's something we can do. We've done it before. We can do it again. We can deliver this civic education. We can organize Kenyans to rise up and take action. We have been going to court. We go to court almost every day. Just 3 days ago, you saw we went to court to stop these collecting fees through e-citizen. Our life has become one of waiting for Ruto's government to make a bad policy and for us to stop it. So a ton of vigilance has become a responsibility, except that it's only for very few of us. I wish it was for very many, so that there are many people standing up for their rights, rather than keeping it to a very few number of people in the country.
You've said very many good things this morning, Cyprian, and we thank you very much for that. We'll be in touch with Mweni and to get that information and also share it with you as well, and share her number with you so you too can also communicate. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation this week. We'll be back next week from Monday, God willing. We wish you a lovely, lovely weekend, and also reminding you this is a weekend to make those preparations. Pay today so that over the weekend you're looking for the supply of burgundy and gold, and then, Tuesday, come Wednesday, you're set. Okay? Ticketsasa.com is the way to go.
5,500 and 10,000.
And 10,000. Just like that. All right. Have a good one, people. It's 10 a.m.